Priscilla here? Okay, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Teresa Smith de Sharif, the Vice Chair of the Valencia Soil and Water Conservation District Board, and it is now 4:03. I'm calling to order this monthly board meeting of the Valencia Soil and Water Conservation District, and I would like to welcome those who are participating virtually. So just pull up, everyone should have their board packet. I'm now verifying that we have a quorum and that another board member from Isleta, Priscilla, is expected to join us forthwith. So today I am very happy to see in person Richard Bonine, our friend from Laguna, and I'm going to ask you to conduct the Pledge of Allegiance for us, please.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So at this point, thank you, Richard, and thank you, everyone. I'd like to have everyone's attention called to the agenda, and I don't know that we need anything changed, but if you'll raise your hand and let me know if any changes are needed. If not, I would like to call for a motion to approve today's agenda.
Madam Vice Chair?
This is the Vice Chair. I recognize Treasurer Cordova.
Cordova here. I move that we approve the agenda as written.
Thank you, Treasurer Cordova. Is there a second?
Supervisor Bonine seconds.
Thank you, Supervisor Bonine. It has been moved and seconded that we approve today's agenda for this regular monthly board meeting. I will now, if there's no further discussion, I will now move to a roll call vote. Hearing a roll call vote by show of hands. Is that how we're doing it?
Yes.
Yes.
And virtually, though, I'm going to ask, or they're going to raise their hand. Sorry, I'm asking the chair here.
No razor.
Okay, all right, by show of hands. So all those in favor of approving today's agenda, and your hand is raised, Nick? Yes, okay, and very good. All right, so the motion carries unanimously. Okay. And now I'll move to item number 2, approval of the January 18th regular board meeting minutes. And if there are no changes, I would call for a motion. And the
Vice Chair,
Chair Camarena, you're recognized and have the floor.
thank you. I move that the January board meeting minutes be approved as submitted.
Thank you, Chair Camarena. Is there a second?
Cordova, second.
Thank you, Treasurer Cordova. Who seconds? Is there any input from the virtual participants, or was that just noise? Just an echo. Okay. All right. It has been moved and seconded that we approve the minutes from the January 18th regular board meeting. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, I will now ask for a vote by show of hands. All those in favor of approving the January board minutes, please raise your hand. Okay, I see that this motion has been approved unanimously. Okay, and now we'll move on to the period of our agenda devoted to public comment, and I do not see a member of the public other than our friend April Luna from NRCS here, and I will ask the district director to weigh in and let us know if we have received any public comment. District Director Hautzinger, you have the floor.
Thank you, Matt. This is District Director Hautzinger. We have received no public comment either through our mailbox, PO box, nor on our public input email.
This is Vice Chair Smith-Shreve. Thank you, District Director. And I don't see hands raised from the public. So this section of the agenda will now conclude. And I would like to note that we have caught up, and we're ahead of schedule now. I'm going to turn over the floor to you, District Director Hautzinger, and other staff to give a brief summation, please, because it is assumed that everyone has read the material and come to the meeting prepared. A brief summations, please. And you.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Again, this is Director Hautzinger. Hopefully people can see up on the screen our staff report that not only kind of recaptures the agenda, but then gives each of our highlights. I detail not only the excitement of still, we're on this great mode of increasing visitation. So we talked about this last month, but I again say, isn't it great that in 2023 we saw 26 people here, which is almost over 1,000 more visitors than we had the year prior. Also, really excited to note, sorry, but to the Whitfield committee, I didn't have a Whitfield report out on the agenda. That's my bad. But I did summarize a lot of what we had discussed on the 26th of January. Super excited as our chair and CPM Chavez had just conversed with our project forester, Marissa Goodwin. Things are going well at our Rio Bajo site. I'm excited to bring some board supervisors whenever you want to go get some hands-on, eyes-on to go down to Raucci. So that's moving in the right direction. Lots of recruitment work. Teresa, you and I spoke at some detail about this morning. So we have a handful of things moving our way in the recruitment arena. Just want to keep that on people's radar screen. I'll fast forward to I just thought we had such a great day on the 31st of January up at our state capitol, and here's a little picture of the good such handsome people we have in our partnership network. capital outlay I summarize here, but we'll talk about this a little bit more in the budget piece. But we'll give you an update on where that's at. And also just super critical that we look towards getting smarter on our Land of Enchantment Legacy Fund. So that's also something that we'll talk about. Save the date, March 12th. We want everybody here. Shh, okay, darn. Okay, we'll save the date, March 11th. Double verify that for me. So I'll leave there with the note that we had a great science symposium that our new partnership network, Middle Rio Grande Endangered Species Collaborative Program, hosted on Tuesday and Wednesday of this week. So I was really happy to be there with CPM Chavez as well as Conservation Program Assistant Justine Diaz. So that since Megan's not here, I think can we hold hers?
Yeah, just one second. I want to just clarify something, if I may.
Yes, ma'am.
Director Hautzinger, just to let everybody know who may be participating virtually, our friends and partner agencies and ourselves, that when we're referring to the work at Raucci, we're doing forest thinning there that is absolutely necessary to reduce the fuel burden that is posed by the horrible invasives. And I'm really glad to hear that. And I'll turn it back over to you, District Director Hautzinger.
Very good. Thank you, Chair. And here comes one of our board supervisors. Hi, Jim. Welcome to the meeting. We can set up another chair for your daughter there if it's helpful. I submit that let's come back to Megan's report. In case she's, I submit that why don't we hold off on Megan's report? I'll do it for her on her behalf if she's not in. We expect her back any minute now.
District Director Hautzinger, Megan did say she was going to be late because it's one of her classes. So let's just shift over to another.
Yeah, that's just what I'm suggesting.
And whoever you call will have the floor.
I would like to hand the microphone to our environmental educator, Laura McCann.
Thank you, District Director Hautzinger. This is Education Program Manager McCann. I just wanted to let you know that our classroom programs have started again. We didn't have any programs in December, but in January we did have a couple, and this is when we work with fifth graders with the Sandia Mountain Natural History Center as our partners, and those programs went really well, and we did cross the bridge. So we're not going right up to the river right now because we have to deal with some inappropriate graffiti that's on some of those trees near the river, unfortunately. So we're going to work on that. And could you scroll a little bit? Sorry. Next. It's language. Well, it could be inappropriate. What I'm saying is if it were just like a picture of a cow or something, that wouldn't be the end of the world. But this is like the N word on two of the trees. So, and I mean, that's the first thing a fifth grader's going to see. Look what it says on that tree. So, yeah. And there's also, what is the F words on there too, right?
Well, and there's also human anatomy.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that. So we, interesting traffic that goes through the bosque. Okay, so the picture's a little cut off. I'd like them to see the pictures. Okay, so the program for fifth grade entails going into the classroom once. We have interactive stations that they visit, they answer questions about them, and then we go out in the field and teach about the ecology of the bosque and the importance of balanced ecosystems. So there's a picture of them crossing the bridge, some near the pond and in the classroom. Next. Okay, we had a Master Naturalist reunion on Tuesday this week, and that's, we were trying to make sure we stay in touch with our Master Naturalists. I noticed when I came on board, we had contact with some who'd stayed involved, but a lot of them had kind of drifted away and we didn't have their contacts, etc. So what I'd like to try to do is to stay in better contact with these people who'd already shown an interest in conservation work and not let that kind of drift away. So this was my first attempt, was let's have a reunion. Any Master Naturalists that I knew their contact information, I sent it. We did have about 8 that showed, plus we had some of our committee there, including myself and Conservation Program Manager Chavez, which is awesome. But I would like to do this like once a month starting in May. So we're going to start working on that. And then again, the Master Naturalist class for 2024 will be August to October, August 14th to October 19th. The exciting thing I have for the next pictures, my Master Naturalist project, because I thought, well, if I'm in charge of running this program, I'm going to become a Master Naturalist. So I went ahead and I made myself follow those same requirements. And my conservation project was putting a barn owl box on the maintenance building. So as you can see on the left, that's what it looks like inside, because we don't want the bird flying around the maintenance building. They could hurt themselves or etc. So it's contained. It has a camera in there. You can see in the bottom picture is what the camera view looks like towards the entrance. So if we get bird habitation, we'll be able to see it. The camera is motion detected, motion activated and sound activated. And on the right hand side, you can see what it looks like on the outside. It's very tasteful. By coincidence, it actually matches the trim of the building. Woo! Conservation Program Manager Chavez noted that. I was like, yes. So will barn owls use it? Well, we can't make them. We can put out, this, and there's nothing to attract them. The dark space inside a building is what will attract them. So we'll just have to wait and see. And somebody said, well, maybe a woodpecker will use it. I'm like, well, maybe. We don't know what bird would use it. I doubt a mammal will use it. It's kind of hard to reach. So that will be ongoing. If we do get a bird nest in there, we have the ability to stream Wi-Fi. We have the ability to post photos, and that would be on our website. This project was made possible by a donation that I acquired from Jay Simmons. So it did not cost the district. Next. Okay, so events coming up. We have 3 spring events, 4 coming up. The first one is our Spring Forward Star Party on March 8th, which is a Friday night. The reason why it's called that is because the next Sunday, right after that, is when we turn our clocks forward. And then I'm not doing a star party because the sunset's too late. So this was, the last time we did a star party, it was a big success. This time, instead of having an owl ahead of time, we're going to have solar viewing, where you have specialized telescopes. You can look at the sun, you can see solar flares, and all the other things that are really cool about the sun. And then we have a night sky presentation being done again by Jim Greenhouse, as well as telescopes. The Albuquerque Astronomical Society likes to come down here because it's dark, and they have an observatory really, is it southwest of Berlin, I think? So it's not far away from here. So it's really nice that they volunteered to come out. We are going to have not a food truck with food, but double cup coffee. So hot drinks, because it's at night, 5 to 9. They're the ones who, the telescope guys were like, let's make it till 9 o'clock. And I thought, yeah, well, if everybody stays that late. A lot of times our audience goes around 8:30. Anyway, Agricultural Appreciation Day is, we're finishing planning that. We did just find out with the help of Supervisor Cordova that we couldn't get Tome Toto, so Oasis food truck is going to come to that event. Plus we have speakers lined up. I don't have an NRCS speaker yet, April. I'll talk to you about that later. But we do also have our very own Johnny Chavez, who is going to be doing his presentation on wetlands, which was really cool at the Master Naturalist reunion. And he might be assisted by NRCS adding to that and saying, here's what you can do with your land. And you don't want to get rid of that wetland because then you're not available for funds. Let's see. Earth Day Fiesta. That one's April 20th, and that one actually has got a lot of planning done as well. I have speakers already arranged for that one. I am going to bring raptors myself. We have Jerry Tuttle, as we mentioned last month, and a woman from NASA, Holly Cole, and she's going to do a talk on the Globe Observer, so how your citizen scientists can access NASA data in their area and see all the different cool things that NASA has to offer and give a little talk about climate. Then we have, and I've reached out also to vendors, but we could still, anybody who's interested in attending and having a table either for information or any, I forgot to ask Supervisor Bonine, the Society for Rangeland Management might be able to would have a table. Might be nice for one of those events like Ag Appreciation. Yeah. Excellent. Okay. Okay, I should have a flyer before that, and I'll email it to you. Well, we were going to talk to Athena since she helps us manage our program here, but we haven't heard back from her yet, so we're not sure. But someone who can speak to the programming that's available for ranchers and farmers. So that's what we're looking for. And let's see, next we have our lavender workshop, which the date is now May 18th. So it's the weekend after Mother's Day, and it is a Saturday. And I'll leave that to Conservation Program Manager Chavez to tell more about that during his report. The Bosque Education Guide and BEMP training for teachers, which is funded through as a sub-award. We were a sub-awardee on a BEMP grant. We have now scheduled that will happen August 31st, and we're working with some of our school districts to see if we can't get some of our academic coaches who actually train the teachers to come to that workshop, and then they can disseminate that further so we can get more conservation education and outdoor education into the classroom that way. It kind of magnify our impact. That's it. Any questions? Yes, ma'am.
Anyone have any questions? This is Vice Chair asking.
Madam Vice Chair, I'd like to offer a comment.
Chair Camarena, you have the floor.
Thank you. Hey, I think it's a great idea to stay in touch with the former master naturalist cadre. It seems to me that if you maintain that communication link there, you may have a reservoir of potential volunteers.
Exactly.
You know,
yeah,
so I think that's a great stroke. Plus, it just keeps them perhaps interested in what we're doing, and who knows, you know. But we don't want to forget those folks. They worked hard, and they made a significant contribution with their time.
Yeah, and a commitment, you know, and people who are committed, who love conservation and love the environment. That's a perfect person to be part of our team.
Yes. And on the barn owl nesting box,
yeah.
It just strikes me that, you know, you see these videos where, you know, the birds are, their whole history of what's going on is video streamed, and kids get really excited. People do as well.
Yeah.
And who knows what we're going to get there, but it might be an opportunity to, you know, pique some interest with school kids to kind of monitor if there's a way to link, you know, with that whole process.
Yeah, because they could definitely, I could share that link with teachers, and essentially then that could be part of their classroom curriculum. It's like, let's log in today and check on
see what's going on.
Birds.
Yeah, I think that's great.
So everybody, however you wish for or pray for things, that we would get a bird in the box. Put good thoughts out into the universe.
You know, beggars can't be choosers, so we may just take any bird that shows up.
That's right. Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. Hey, man, I'll take it.
Okay, I'm done. I yield back. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair, recognizing
Chair.
Supervisor Bonine.
On that bird box, I'd recommend that we are kind of coy about the location.
Oh, definitely. As a birder,
As you know, there's just bad things that happen to owls in particular.
oh, of course.
Not if people know the location, I don't know why they can't leave things alone. But
Well, we wouldn't broadcast if we have a bird nest there, we would put the video on there. We wouldn't tell them where it was. Does that make sense? They might know,
Absolutely.
it's in the district somewhere, but we won't tell them exactly where it is.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Supervisor Fisher, you have the floor.
Yes, Supervisor Fisher. I was just wondering, is that going to be recorded also, so that it could be, you know, broadcast numerous times throughout the year, not just
that's a
one
good
time?
point. We did need to get an SD card. Is that right? Conservation Program Manager Chavez. So we need to put an SD card in there. So that's something that we're probably going to do within the next week, because right now we can broadcast it live. and we can take photos and we can start recording from an app on my phone or Johnny's phone or Conservation Program Manager Chavez's phone, but it wouldn't be constant. So we can record right now, even without the SD card, because it'll record it on the app, and then we could broadcast that. Yeah, over and over.
Very much. And if there are no other questions, I'd like to ask a question, if I may. This is Vice Chair Smith-Day-Sharif. So I'm looking at Earth Day and an opportunity to reach out to beyond our normal reach out. And we have successfully brought our education programs and have been invited back to the Pueblo of Isleta, and we are still trying to get the right knock on the door for Laguna. So maybe a way to do that would be to invite kids to come to the Earth Day Fiesta and find a way to make that happen. Whether or not we provide transportation, or I don't know, I think we've got to do something to somehow serve that community. And if you take a look at election results, people in Laguna are voting, and every time they're voting in record numbers, and it's like twice the amount of the election before. So we help in some of the grants and stuff that you've gotten, but how can we help people directly? And so I'm just saying it's an idea to ponder. And I think I see Supervisor Bonine raising his hand. If so, you have the floor.
Thank you. This is Supervisor Bonine. I really appreciate that idea. I will tell you that one of the programs in my department is in charge of Earth Day. We do village cleanups. Like we're bringing out open top from waste management and that sort of thing. So we go through each of the villages, and then in the afternoon, everybody gathers at the football field, and we've generally had food vendors. It's sort of like a mini feast kind of thing. It's a fun time. You should probably come to Laguna.
That we split resources. This is Vice Chair Smith-Day-Sharif, and that maybe some representatives of the board go out there for Earth Day, and we could happen to have our Goodman Award scholarship applications in our pockets, and our school programs in our pockets, and just start pulling out information. Thank you, Supervisor Bonine. I think you're wanting to ask the chair. Vice Chair recognizes Environmental Education Program Manager. Laura?
Thank you, Vice Chair. Supervisor Bonine, I really appreciate you letting me know that they do have festivities going on that same weekend. But I kind of was intrigued by the idea of bringing kids here. Now, it is a Saturday, not Earth Day, but what about Ag Appreciation? Is agriculture, do we have, so that might be something to maybe bring kids down. So something to look into. And also, Supervisor Cordova had mentioned reaching out to Isleta's farmers and helping them, know about the event for Ag Appreciation, because we have agencies there who can help advise on, and it is going to be a healthy soil event. One of our presentations is going to be by Dean Bruce. I didn't want to say his name backwards. By Dean Bruce from NMDA, and he's going to talk about healthy soils briefly indoors, but then he's going to do a demonstration outside. So there's going to be a lot for our ag partners there. So that might be one that we could advertise too, to see if we couldn't get Laguna farmers down there too.
And with that, I'd like to turn the floor over to Business Manager Megan McCready, if you would want to just give a highlight or two from your report. And thank you for joining us after your school lesson today.
Thank you, Vice Chair. This is Business Manager McCready. So this actually isn't in my report, as this is news that was just given to us, and I'm not sure if District Director Houtsinger has already told you. Our CPA, Chris Fogel, has told us that he is retiring. This was pretty sad news for me. He has been my mentor through my entire business career thus far. And so that news has made me pretty sad. I do believe he's coming down here tomorrow. If not, we do have a scheduled time within the next 30 days that I told him I'd like to take him to lunch and just kind of express my gratitude for the amount of the teachings that he's given to me, some of his insights. Another thing that I'd like to share with you all from my report is why we're having to do resolution number 4. I get to come to you all presenting that I am human and I made a mistake in some of our final budget. I want to do the best I can to own this and learn from it as well. I did not realize that we had 30 days to recognize reimbursements from expenditures. And so our final budget that we submitted to DFA is about $64,000 off. And that is because we received capital outlay funds in this fiscal year that were expended in last fiscal year. And so that's why resolution number 4 is here. So I did want to take an opportunity to kind of let you guys know what happened and to give me an opportunity to kind of own the situation. I have learned from it, and I'm sorry that it had to turn into a teaching tool, but it's one that now I've learned and we won't repeat. So with that, I will yield back and thank you very much.
Business Manager air is something we all do, and to learn from it is wonderful, and we're learning too. I think we have a resolution now that we can correct that, and everything is going to be great, and it gives the opportunity for the board to show our auditor that we're on top of things. If we find something, we catch it and we act on it, and that's also important. So do you have a question, Supervisor Fisher?
Supervisor Fisher, I was just wondering, what does it affect by that not being there?
Thank you. This is a matter on the agenda that we're going to have later on in the treasurer's report. So would you mind if we hold that until then? Thank you very much. And if I forget, just wave and we'll bring that up. Okay. And Chair Camarena, you have a question? You have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. This is Supervisor Camarena. I just wanted to comment on Chris's availability, if it's an option for us to have a conversation with him, if he might want to come back from time to time on an as-needed basis, not a full time. I don't know if he'd be willing to do that. I think in his letter he mentioned coming back for the third quarter and possibly the fourth quarter, and maybe even for the FY25 budget. So it sounded to me like he was willing to be available on a limited basis. And I also want to acknowledge his commendation of you, Megan, in terms of how much you've learned, and that you're basically ready to solo. And so, so I would hope you would have confidence in that. And yet, if in fact there's a need for him to come back, maybe periodically to just use him as a sounding board, maybe that conversation is worth having, and to see if he'd be open to that. I yield back, Madam Chair, Vice Chair.
Chair Camarena, and so I think at this point, if there is no further question, I'm going to move on now to our next section of the agenda, noting. Oh, Johnny, pardon me. Yeah. Yeah, Johnny, you are not forgotten. This is Vice Chair recognizing our magnificent Conservation Program Manager, Johnny Chavez. You have the floor.
Thank you, Vice Chair, and hello, Board. So I'll make mine very brief. I just wanted to go over that this time of the year, we start to get a lot of ag calls and soil sample intake. So I'm starting to get busy with that, and then going out to fields to our farmers, ranchers, and then also some of our local individuals and cities with their gardens. So that's picking up. Still excited. Hopefully we'll get a word here pretty soon if we got the YCC grant. I've been working with our assistant, Justine, on getting all that finalized for anticipation of getting accepted into this year's YCC grant period. As our district director just said, I was just at Raucci with our contractor and with forestry. Everything looks really nice. They're doing what is on the contract and what the district wants happening out there. So they're staying with it. So that's going really good. But whenever that's done, we'll have our second contract coming in with forestry to do some work here at Stacy and Rocca and Whitfield. That'll be a different contract, but that should be coming down the pipeline here in a couple of weeks. And that's all I have to say.
Conservation Program Manager Chavez, does anyone have any questions? Okay. Thank you very much for your good work, and we look forward to seeing more good things from all of the staff in the weeks and months ahead. Okay, at this point, I think now we are finally ready to move on to our updates, partner reports, and I think that online we have Katie Mechenbier from NMDA, and I can't see if there are any other partners. I know we have NRCS here, so pardon me? Okay. And we have Friends of Whitfield. Great. Okay, so but I also wanted to know, I think Priscilla Abeta, our board member, is here. Does anyone know when she joined? What time? Okay, very good. Thank you very much, and welcome to Supervisor Abeta. At this point, I'd like to call on our technical specialist from NMDA, Katie Mechenbier. I don't think we have your February report in the board packet. I saw January. So would you give us a little update, please?
Sure, yes. Do you want me to resend it, Andrew, if that would be helpful?
You need to resend it. I'm not seeing it here.
Okay, I will resend it.
Katie, this is Vice Chair Smith-Deshrif. If you could give us highlights, that would be really welcome. Thank you.
Okay, yeah.
You have the floor.
All right, thank you. So in April, if you can pass your annual mill rate resolution and submit it to the Commission for approval. Also, April 7th, the Water Quality and Conservation Grant proposals are due. Once again, those are proposals that districts can only apply for. It goes through the Commission. So I recommend applying as many times as you want for that. And then your third quarterly budget report's due to DFA April 30th. And the big items in the report are the Land of Enchantment. You guys were on our first webinar in February. The webinars for the work sessions begin in January. So in the report are the links. Just click on the link and it'll register you for the day. If you can't make your region day, that's not a problem. You can go to another region's meeting, no issue at all. Item number 3 in the report talks about water quality. Like I said, those are due Friday, April 5th. All that information in the report. You also received the RFP in email from Patricia. And then the Healthy Soil application opens February 23rd. It closes on April 26th. So that information is in the report as well. There will be two sessions going over for eligible entities and individuals on March 5th. That's via Zoom. Those links are also in the report. We have some information on zoning. If you guys wanted to move forward with zoning before that legislation came into place, we just have like what the district act says in the report. So just kind of the facts. If you know any producers who need to have their livestock scales inspected who are not in the routine livestock scale inspection program, they need to have the requests made by March 31st. And then skipping down to things that are not NMDA's actual projects, but others, there's some BLM opportunities for funding in the report. I'll let you guys look over that. Those are due March 27th, and those are through grants.gov. The Environment Department is asking for requests for information. They are looking at developing a strategic water supply. This has to do a lot with brackish water. There's going to be 2 virtual meetings, one February 27th and another March 1st. Both those links are in the report if you guys wanted to sit in on those. The Land and Water Summit is March 7th through the 8th. It's at the Indian Pueblo Cultural Center in Albuquerque. And then the USDA has a disaster assistance fire recovery plan. It's based off the Hermit's Peak Calf Canyon disaster. That information is in the report. The rest of this has kind of been in there for a little bit, but if you have any questions on anything, now or after, when you guys review the report, please call me, email me, just let me know what I can do to help. And I'm sorry I'm not there in person. My son has influenza B, so trying to get through that with him.
I know there's at least one question for you, Katie. Does anyone else here have a question for Katie? I assure you that we'll be reading your report. I was well into reading the January report again when I said, wait a minute, I've read all of this before. In any case, I do have a question about registration for the Land of Enchantment training, which is being done hopefully by regions. We would be on March 11th, I believe. You said registration. Now, does every person on the board and staff who wishes to go through the training have to register, or is it enough for the district to register?
It's enough for just the district to register. They'll get the link sent back to them and the reminders. So if you kind of want that information on your computer, I would recommend registering just kind of for the reminders. If y'all are going to be meeting in one area, that's fine too. Just register once.
Very much. This is Vice Chair recognizing Laura McCann, our Environmental Education Manager. You have the floor.
Vice Chair and Ms. Mechenbier, I just wanted to make sure, because I'm going to attend that from home. So it would just be, so you'd get the one link to one contact person in our district and they would get it to everyone who's going to attend. Is that correct?
You could do that, or you can register yourself as well. If you're going to be at home, it might be easier just for you to register as well.
Okay, thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the Vice Chair. We're going to be discussing that later on. So thank you very much for the questions. I'd like to turn this over now to our colleague from NRCS, April Luna. Thank you for joining us, and you have the floor.
Everyone. Right now, currently, I'm still acting district conservationist. Nick was supposed to come back March 11th, but he's not going to come back until March 25th. So Roxanne Moore is going to be acting. My acting detail ends next Friday. So Roxanne Moore will be acting starting the 26th of February all the way to till Nick gets back. So there's a lot of changes with NRCS. We're getting a lot of money through IRA, Inflation Reduction Act, and we're trying to hire more staff to help with the workload. We did get a new engineer. He's placed in Los Lunas office. He started in the middle of January. And right now, currently, there was nobody that applied for the Cuba office, the soil conservation technician. So we're trying to do some local outreach. So if you guys know anybody in the Cuba area or would like to go to the Cuba area, it's a really good position. You know, it's a federal job just to get in. They're going to try to re-advertise it, I'm assuming probably in the next month or so. And also too, with the workload, NMACD and NRCS are kind of collaborating to add partner positions. So it's going to not be a federal position, but it'll be a partner position to help with our EQIP and CSP workload. The thing is that they're going to be part-time employees. So if you guys know anybody that's interested, I think there's going to be 1 or 2 in the Cuba office and then 1 in the Los Lunas office. And I just want to point out on the news releases, the second one for the Work for Us career opportunities, NRCS made a new website. So if any jobs that are coming open, it'll say coming soon for any of the jobs throughout the state. And also too, it kind of gives, oh, thank you, Andrew. Kind of gives some information like how to make a federal resume, you know, kind of how to navigate USA jobs, that kind of stuff. So it's really kind of helpful, you know, for people that are looking to work for NRCS. Anything else? Any questions?
Does anyone have any questions for April Luna with NRCS? I know I do, but I will yield to anyone else who does. You have the floor, Laura McCann, Environmental Education Manager.
Just real quick, for our events that we're trying to reach out to NRCS, who should be my contact point?
I would say right now, me, Roxanne Moore, and Albuquerque, or Nick.
Okay, yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, because we're going to be the local.
Can you send me Roxanne's contact? Thank you.
Okay. Oh, Okay, thank you. I have to move the chocolates away from me. Yes, I have a question. This is Vice Chair Smith-Day-Sharif. Okay. When we were up at the legislature on January 31st, we were so happy to have the NRCS director for the state of New Mexico, whose name is escaping me.
Javier Montoya.
Yes, Javier was there. And one of the things he called for was we districts must apply for his outreach program. So my question is, when is it due?
It's April 26th or 3rd. I don't know. I sent it to Andrew this week. That was not on my report. Thank you for reminding me. I was going to tell you guys that. I did my report before this week.
Right.
So I sent it to Andrew, and he should have the link to it. And I also sent it to Richard for Pueblo of Laguna. I sent it to, I think, Priscilla for Isleta.
Very good. I think that we need to take a look at that, and I'm so glad that you've already sent the link. This is Vice Chair Smith-Day-Sharif, and thank you so much for.
Yes.
Does anyone have any other question? If not, I want to thank you. Yes, Supervisor Fisher, you have the floor.
I was just wondering, is that something we all have to apply for or do?
Supervisor Fisher, this is a program for soil and water conservation districts through NRCS to provide outreach. So it's not an individual doing outreach, it's a district. It's a perfect match, for example, for some of the work that we do in environmental education, in training on, soil and water conservation techniques, especially in arid lands, uplands, like in what we teach at our gardens in El Cerro Mission and Monterey Park. So yes, it's for districts. Yeah.
Madam Chairman.
Supervisor Bonine, you have the floor. Thank you.
So sent it to me. Jim's idea was that the New Mexico section of SRM do, apply and look. And collaborate, and the idea I had thrown back to Jim was maybe we could work with Cedillo Cattle Association on Laguna Pueblo, do some sort of a field day and showcase all of the things they're doing. They've got he needs to locate stuff that NRC.
Thank you very much, Supervisor Bonine. This is Vice Chair Smith-Day-Sharif. I misspoke, so let me correct myself. It's primarily aimed at soil and water conservation districts, but associations like that are also in the running per Javier and from what I've read before. So thank you for reminding me of that by your comments. And I think it's a wonderful opportunity to come together and be of service and provide these much needed programs, because part of the issue that we face and the work that we do is informing the public. So the more help we can get in doing that, the better. Anything else? Did you have a further comment? You have the floor, April Luna.
I just forgot to mention, I did send it to Pueblo Isleta Environment Department, to Melissa and Clint over there. So I apologize. I forgot to say that earlier.
Thank you so much. We appreciate that. And wonderful. Thank you very much for doing that, District Director Hautzinger. And before we move on, I don't think we have an MRGCD person here. And we are going to go to the Friends of Whitfield. But before I do, I just want to say now that we really appreciate the presence of our partners at these board meetings. We can send all the emails in the world, but this direct communication, whether it's virtually or in person, really helps us remember what we're doing and how we can do it better and what programs and people are out there to help us. So thank you so much. With that, I will mention that MRGCD is offering a conversation about water, and that's going to be this Saturday from 11 to 2 down in Socorro. And I'm planning to go. MRGCD did not realize that the Valencia Soil and Water Conservation District included northern Socorro County. And so we weren't formally invited to give a presentation, and it's too bad because Socorro Soil and Water is not available. But we can show up, and Chair Stephanie Russo-Baca says we certainly our input and our learning opportunities are most welcome. So I'm now going to turn the floor over to our dear friend Rob Raucci from the Friends of Whitfield. You have the floor.
Thank you, Vice Chair Smith Day Sharif. Can everybody hear me? Yes? Can you hear me? All right, because your microphones and a couple of you people were cutting out. I could not hear you. So if by any chance you were calling me names, that was a good time to do it. So I just want to let you know what's going on with the Friends. We are going through a restructuring and reorganizing, which I've mentioned, I think, for a couple of meetings. And right now we're reviewing and revising our bylaws with the anticipation that we will have a special meeting called within the next couple of months to have the membership approve those bylaws. And it's been a very interesting experience, to say the least. We also recently purchased DonorSnap, which is a client relationship management software, so we can organize and keep better track of our members and our donors. And we just approved switching from Quicken to QuickBooks, and that transition will take place probably in the next several weeks. Thank you, Andrew. Also, we just purchased a 10-foot flag that'll say, that's all right, go ahead, you can pass by. That'll say event today. And that 10-foot flag will be posted by the front entrance to Whitfield on 47. And I expect to get that flag hopefully by the end of February, so we can start using it for events that are coming up in March. Also, as a quick aside, our first fundraiser will be the Aldo Leopold benches. That will be a silent auction at the Earth Day Fiesta. And we have our woodworkers working on those benches as we speak. And then finally, there will be a volunteer appreciation event for Friends of Whitfield volunteers on March 16th. And that's it from me, unless anybody has any questions.
Anyone have any questions for the Friends of Whitfield? Hearing none, we will move on to the next item on the agenda, but we thank you so much, and we hope you'll forward us further details on the Volunteer Appreciation Day and other such matters. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I'm now
with you.
Okay, so this is Supervisor Treasurer Cordova, you have the floor.
So we should all make sure that our microphones are on and that we're speaking into the microphone so that those online can hear us clearly.
Thank you, Treasurer Cordova. That's a really important reminder. With that, I'd like to now move us on to the next item of the agenda, the Isleta Reach Stewardship Association update. Oh, we do have correspondence. Okay, I didn't think that we did. We'll come back then. I'll turn it over to Director Houtzinger.
It rains, it pours. Most days we don't have any correspondence. Today we have a handful. So if you just give me a quick, I need 3 minutes to run through all of these. If you guys will just allow me that. Excuse me. Oops. So one. Oh, hold on. It's going to take a second to load. So one is the retirement notice from our dear friend Chris Fogel. So just make sure this is on our radar screen. We have the note coming out. So thank you for signing that. He's been a partner for over 12 years of ours. So super appreciative. Also going around just to show you is a nice note from our congressman for this district, CD2, Gabe Vasquez, who was here on the 5th of the month. And so this was a really nice note he sent to us, thanking us for our time. Also sharing the neat proclamation that's out over there, I think in front of our treasurer. This was sent to us from NMDA, but this is the legislature of the state of New Mexico's declaring that January 31st, 2024 is the Soil and Water Conservation Day in the Senate. So sharing that with you good people. That's a nice proclamation to show how important we are to our leaders in the political realm. And also wanting to get this on people's radar screen. If anyone has availability to help us man a booth, staff a booth, use neutral language here, sorry, at a wellness expo and job fair at UNM Valencia, Tuesday, March the 5th from 10 to 1. So some of our partners will be there, but it sure be great for us to be able to get a booth stood up. So if any board supervisors are interested in that, again, the day is March the 5th. So keep that in your Rolodex if you can. This isn't, I don't have anywhere else to put this. It wasn't part of my report, but I just want to make sure everyone's got this data point on there in their minds. That there was a February 8th Village of Los Lunas session that basically endorsed the Niagara Bottling Company's continued expansion of their water use. We're not playing an active role in that conversation right now. If something in that arena y'all want to change and have me be more active, right now I'm just kind of monitoring it, but I haven't done anything. I'm not drilled into all the details, but I think it's a very important community concern. What we do with it, I'm not sure, but I just want to make sure I'm feeling like I'm doing my job to make sure those who haven't heard about that are able to. So those are the couple things of correspondence, Vice Chair, that I wanted to share.
Much, District Director Houtsinger. Does anyone have any questions about any of that? Okay. All right. Hearing none, we will now move on to the Isleta Reach Stewardship Association. We're just 3 minutes ahead of schedule, so I'd like to try and have us not fall behind. Chair, are you going to discuss this, or are we going to allow our district director to provide a brief summary?
I'm sorry.
This is the Isleta Reach Stewardship Association update. Our district director has been invited to be on that board.
I thank you, Vice Chair Smith-Sharif. This is Supervisor Cameron. I would defer to the director as he's been personally involved more than I have. So with that, I yield back.
Thank you very much, Chair Camarena. I'll just say to everybody that this is a really wonderful opportunity. IRSA wants to play a role in helping us with the future of our Rio Abajo Conservation Area. So, because it falls within the Isleta Reach, this is a great invitation for Andrew, and I'm going to turn it over to you, District Director Houtsinger, to just give us a little briefing about what your plans are and what the hopes are. You have the floor.
Very, very good. Thank you, Vice Chair and Chair. This is Director Houtsinger. We've been sitting on the Executive Steering Committee of the Isleta Reach Stewardship Association for the last 3 years, but they've come to a point in that entity, Audubon-driven entity, Audubon Southwest stood up IRSA. They've come to a point where they want to continue their existence, and the only way that's going to happen is with a dedicated staff member, which means they have to raise funds. And so one of the big things that they've done is they've been trying to stand up a 501c3 to be able to be more effective in fundraising. It so happens that there's an entity that some of you may remember called the New Mexico Riparian Council that has been quiescent for a better part of 10 years, but they've kept their 501c3 status. And so IRSA has met with their board and has gotten authorization to piggyback on their 501c3. I didn't know you could do that, but now the organization is being referred to as New Mexico Riparian Council doing business as Isleta Reach Stewardship Association. How's that for a mouthful? But part of that evolution entails going from steering committees for the more informal IRSA board into a board of directors for what you need for a 501c3. So all of us who are sitting on the steering committee have now been basically elevated per support from our leadership, have been elevated to sit on the board. As it stands now, Paul Tastian, the Audubon lead on this, would be president. Casey Ish would be the vice president. He's from Middle Rio Grande Conservancy District, and I've been asked if I would perform the role of secretary. So basically, I'm looking for a motion of support for myself to serve in that capacity of this key group who is stitching together pieces of how we're managing this river system like no other entity. They have decades of combined experience. So I think it's a great fit for us, and converting the way that they did to get this 501c3 saved them 6-9 months of torture to try to stand up a brand new 501c3. So I understand why they did it. Even now, it's a mouthful of a entity name. Open the floor for questions while looking for a motion.
Thank you, District Director Hautzinger. Before we open, I have a specific question, and that is, if I understood correctly, and please correct me if I'm wrong, you would not be on that board as a private person, but you would be there in your capacity as District Director for the Valencia Soil and Water Conservation District. Is that correct?
That's correct for all those serving on this board as they're representing entities. Yes.
Thank you very much for that clarification. Are there any questions for District Director Hautzinger? Chair Camarena, you have the floor.
Thank you, Vice Chair Smith-Sharif. This is Supervisor Camarena. I guess just a gut reaction. If I have a concern to express, it would be about time impact in terms of what's involved in you offering services as a secretary to this board. There's a lot of irons in the fire and a lot of activity that you've helped us to achieve a voice at the table, so to speak. And I know that when your name gets out there and people see you as a doer, everybody wants to capture your time, and so can you just maybe help me understand what the time impact would be and how you would manage that given all the other things that your role requires of you? Thank you. I yield back.
This is.
You have the floor.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Thank you, Chairman Camarena, for your thoughtful input, which I take as protecting my sanity. I really appreciate that feedback you give me in trying to make sure that I don't overextend, overwhelm myself, and try to as the piece of bread grows wider, but I have the same pat of butter, right? I mean, great metaphors in it. So my reaction to that is first off, the level of work between what I've been doing on IRSA as the committee member versus a board member is not going to be that huge. I mean, the only thing I'm being asked to do as secretary is capture meeting notes, which I do anyway, right? I mean, the only difference now is I'll take the time to type them up instead of writing them in hand. So I mean, that's the one responsibility the secretary has. There's also a treasurer, so I'm not doing the financial management. Thank the good Lord, right? But it's a little bit more time than I'm doing now for that group, and I will do my very best to manage it without impacting things that are more important.
Thank you, Vice Chair Smith-Sharif. This is Supervisor Camarena. Can I just share with the group that I hear what you're saying to me, and I also know we're going to have another conversation here regarding the Middle Rio Grande Endangered Species Group and the role that we're being asked to play there in membership, and recognizing that myself, the Vice Chair, and you are being identified as the people who are participate in those circles of conversation and such. And it just strikes me that I just want to share with you, I want to jealously guard your time and what you're doing, and how that affects the availability for the staff to engage with you and to follow up on things. And honestly, I lose track of all these things. I just can't keep track of how many groups that are vying and calling for us to be involved. And I appreciate the attention. I appreciate the interest. But there comes a point where, it's a diminishing returns kind of a thing. And so we used to fondly talk about the chicken salad circuit when I was working in the Forest Service, because if your name got out there, the next thing you knew, you were chasing one meeting to the next meeting, and you were involved in and being out there. And I remember my own experience one time being on 6 committees at a regional level for the Forest Service. And I had a future boss who said to me, I want you to come and work for me, and I want you to choose 2 of those 6 committees. I don't want you on the rest of them. Because I was running myself ragged while trying to be a responsible leader for a unit. So I'm on the fence. I really am. I just want to share that with you. And I think we just need to think about what this means. And you have a big heart, sir, and you have a tremendous amount of energy and willingness to be a part of all of these things. And yet it makes me a little bit nervous, because I just don't know the cumulative effect of all of these things. So that's kind of my reaction. I yield back.
Thank you. Supervisor Bonine, you have the floor. This is Vice Chair. You have the floor.
Thank you. This is Supervisor Bonine. Is there a time frame that we have to make a decision? I mean, if this is not something that we have to decide tonight, would it be appropriate maybe to, have a little more thoughtization about it? And I appreciate your willingness, Andrew, to jump on to this. I'm plagued with the same inability to say no to things, and I'm slowly learning that you can't be everywhere at the same time. So I'm also, in what I'm doing, and in my job, we're trying to figure out what are the big rocks and get those on a calendar so that we can figure out. I mean, there's so much going on. There's so many, and it's just really difficult, so maybe sit down. Can we maybe sit down and some sort of planning session and figure out what are the, as we're almost to the beginning of the new year. I mean, we're not that far away from the beginning of the new year. Can we sit down and kind of map out a plan and so that we can look and see, from a time perspective, is there time for him to do all of this and do the. Thank
you very much, Supervisor Bonine. And I'm going to ask you to answer those questions, but before I do, I'm going to throw one more in. Okay. Would it be less of a tax on your time and mental energy to be on the board but not be an officer at this moment? And I put that out there. If there are no other questions, I would like to turn the floor over to you, District Director Hautzinger, knowing that everything that we're discussing is said, with the utmost respect and hope, and also from a vantage point of we're trying to be where our feet are right now, So with that, I turn the floor over to you, District Director Hautzinger.
Thank you, Vice Chair. This is District Director Hautzinger, and again, I will echo my response to the chair's input, which is there's only so many hours in the day, and I know that I run the risk of spreading myself too thin, so I have to be strategic, and I'm trying to tread in waters that have already been described by board leadership as important. We have a standing motion not many months behind us where we are letting IRSA be one of the primary partners in developing a long-range plan for our Rio Bajo conservation area. So I just want everyone to be aware that if Valencia is not part of IRSA becomes a much less attractive vehicle. We have contributions in our land mass and in our expertise. Education's a big piece of all this. I'm adamant that we continue to play a role in IRSA. It hasn't taken much of my time so far. To your question about urgency, Richard, I mean, every one of us are asking our boards this month. That was the plan to take this next step. So I could tell them, no, my board's not at a comfort level yet. They're going to revisit it next month. I want you guys to trust me that I'm connecting to a partnership group there that is going to be a net positive for us. That's my prediction. I may be wrong on that front. I think a counteroffer of me serving on the board during this period of adjustment without being an officer is absolutely something that I could bring in front of my comrades there at IRSA and get a reaction. So if it's the comfort of the board today, give me a motion to let me join the board as a non-officer and give me some time to figure out that dynamic a little bit more closely, and I'll report back to you guys as my assessment of how much time and effort it would be taking for me to play the role of secretary. And I don't know if there's a secretary replacement that Paul's got in mind, but that's a conversation I'm more than willing to have with Ashton. So is that answering the questions?
I'm going to ask you if you in particular might, or what is your feeling on a happy medium possibly being reached by serving on the board and being a direct voice as IRSA begins to work on the strategic areas, Raucci being one of them, Belen Marsh being another, and I think there's one other, but Chavez. Okay. So, but not being an officer, and anyone else who wants to further comment. You have the floor, Chair Camarena.
Thank you. This is Chairman Camarena. I obviously support the idea of being involved and having a voice at the table. I think that's just what we need to do, and so my hesitancy really is only aimed at impact to you personally and the amount of energy that it may take. Because this won't be the only group that'll come at you and want you, because you're good at what you do. You're articulate. You've got energy. You've got insight, and all of those are valuable attributes. And at the same time, I feel like we need to be picky about where we stake our energy. And if this is one of those that's the best fruit to pick, then perhaps you need to do that and keep us posted as to time impacts and let us weigh in appropriately so that we can pull you back, because I am not a fan of overpromise and underdelivery. And when yes, you have, and I know I sound like a broken record. Because it reflects not only on you personally, but on the rest of the board here, and we don't want to be known as, oh yeah, they raise their hand and get involved in everything, but you never see them again, or they're late. It's just it's a management thing that you and I have had conversation about. So is there a happy medium? I think you need to be involved. There's no question. If that involvement can be done with assurance that you can really manage this, then that's one time. Other times that come along, I'm going to be the broken record, and I'm going to say, hold on. I mean, how many of these things are we involved in here? Because honestly, I lose track of it. And I don't want you to feel like silence is concurrence because I can't remember or we forget. It's easy. And we've worked hard to get our name out there and to be, I don't think we'll ever be a household word, but surely we are a force to be reckoned with, as mighty as we think we are. But I don't want you feeling pressure that you're expected to do all of this. Okay. And I want you to feel like it's okay if you say, thank you, but I no thanks. I know my plate and I know what's involved, and I don't want to go bother the board with this request because they guide their director's time jealously. So if you're willing to make those kind of messages known, then I can support you being involved. But wow. I don't want you burning out. and I say that in sincerity because you're good. Yeah, people want you. They do. And it's like, here we go. And so I think I've said all I can say. If there's going to be a motion on the floor, let that be, and we'll vote on it. And then as other opportunities come up, I think we really need to be thinking about what that means. Okay, I've said enough.
Much for your comments. I think that they were very helpful to us here this evening, Chair Camarena. So this is Vice Chair speaking, and I want to go with something you said, Supervisor Bonine, and that is that, can we look at this in terms of planning? Can we look at the future? So one may not preclude another. We may be able to take a vote here if we have a motion that would support you being on the board. Something along those lines. But maybe it's time that we have another meeting other than our monthly meeting where it is a planning meeting, a working meeting that we hope everybody can show up physically for. So we would agree on a good date, and we come with our dungarees on and our sleeves rolled up and really get ready to get in the dirt of it. Really seriously, let's take a look at because if we get our economic development grant, we are going to be scaling up in, time is just going to go really fast. And the problem with our staff is they only have so many hours, right? So if I would put out to the board for consideration now a motion to approve being on the board. You word it as you see fit if we call for this motion, but also think about, could we agree on having a special meeting? We don't have to have a motion on that, but we could work towards having a special working planning meeting soon. Okay, with that, I'm going to be quiet, and the vice chair recognizes Supervisor Fisher. You have the floor.
My question is basically what time frame do you have to answer them?
This month was the way the rest of us are trying to proceed. The 5 individuals who've been asked to serve on this board are trying to get everything done from their leadership in the month of February.
This is Vice Chair Smith-Sharif. I'm going to put it out to the board. I see, does Nick Baca, do you have your hand raised? Please, could someone help me monitor the screen because it's really hard. I don't know how long your hand has been raised, but my goodness, you have the floor. Thank you, Supervisor Baca.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. I just wanted to vocalize my support, Andrew. I think that would be a great idea. You know your schedule better than any of us, and I would like to see what would come from it. With that being said, I yield the floor.
Supervisor Baca, I am now going to call for a motion on this matter. The name of the board is IRSA, which is item number 6. It is the Isleta Reach Stewardship Association. For those who are relatively new to the board, this is a working group that has very professional people on it, being championed by Audubon. And one of the 3 areas, like I mentioned, which is the focus for this, the Isleta Reach, in other words, this part of the Middle Rio Grande is our Rio Abajo conservation area. So if another organization is going to work on an area where we're understaffed, that does help us. Now, having said that, I'm going to see, is there anyone else who'd like the floor? Could I just, do you have a follow-on treasurer report?
Make a motion.
Do you mind?
Are you going to make a motion? Okay.
Yeah, well,
Okay, I move that District Director Andrew Hotzinger join the Isleta Reach Stewardship Association Board.
Madam Chairman, I second the motion.
It has been moved by Treasurer Cordova and seconded by Supervisor Bonine that Andrew Hotzinger joined the Isleta Reach Stewardship Association Board of Directors. Is there any further discussion? Any further discussion online? Priscilla, Supervisor Abeta, I think your hand was raised. No?
No, I wasn't.
Oh, thank you, Supervisor Abeta, and hello to you. Okay, so hearing no further discussion, I'm going to do a vote by hand. Wait on. Okay, so all those in favor of Andrew Hotzinger serving on the IRSA board, please raise your hand. Okay, and okay, any opposed? Supervisor Abeta, are you voting in favor?
Abeta, yes.
Thank you very much, Supervisor Abeta. As far as I can count, we have 7 votes in favor. Motion carries unanimously. Congratulations, but keep your feet right underneath you and don't fly too far from the nest. Okay. All right. Okay. So, okay, very good. All right. We are a little bit behind schedule, but let us now move on to our membership. And again, it's interesting because we're putting another group right behind this to show, you know, this is a lot of engagement, but a good one. I'm hoping our Valencia Soil and Water Conservation District has been approved to be part of the Middle Rio.
Wait, I'm doing something wrong. Sorry. Hold on. I hit a button. He was supposed to. I'm talking. Yeah.
Okay, so we were voted in by to be a member of the Middle Rio Grande Endangered Species Collaborative Program, and did you want to have anything, or shall I? So I'm going to give the floor over to Chair Camarena. You have the floor.
Vice Chair Smith-Sharif, this is Supervisor Camarena. Yeah, I've been in communication with Andrew over this particular interest and the value that it adds by our being there, and acknowledge that I would go along with being identified as a contact point, as well as the Vice Chair and also Andrew, so that the 3 of us could participate and have a presence there, and try to provide connection, input to this whole effort on this endangered species collaborative program. And we have to submit a letter to the committee which identifies how we will engage and where the priorities lie. And so this will be another effort. And when myself or the vice chair are not available, then it'll fall to Andrew. And I know there's some other specific interests there with this committee that Andrew has that he would like to be involved in. And so it's another time impact. I don't know how much that'll be. And it's another worthy effort. And so I think it's going to require us to just measure our involvement and what that means. And so I think it's a good thing, just like the Isleta IRSA and all the others that seem to come our way. And I can't name them all. So with that, Andrew, if you want to elaborate and add some thoughts, I yield back.
Yeah,
You recognize Supervisor Bonine.
Supervisor Bonine, I just have a question. Is this organization, or are the endangered species, is it primarily plants, or is it animals, or is it everything?
So
District Director Housinger, you have the floor.
It is the 5 listed. This is Director Housinger. Thank you for the floor, Vice Chair. Chair Bonine, Supervisor Bonine. It is a 25-year-old organization that is focused on the 5 endangered species that are targeted here in the Middle Rio Grande. So those include silvery minnow, yellow-billed cuckoo, southwestern willow flycatcher, Pecos sunflower, and the newest of the group, the New Mexico meadow jumping mouse. So all 5 of those entities, all 5 of those creatures we have something, except for the silvery minnow, which is kind of iffy. We have typical habitat for those species. So that's what makes us such a good fit. Is we're willing to open up some of our land to do some experimentation and do things that are helping us clarify what our path forward looks like, but hopefully doing it with more intellectual heft, because we are now the 17th signatory on this group, but it's got the fat cats on there, right? It's U.S. Bureau of Reclamation is the action agency, Army Corps, Fish and Wildlife, UNM. So there's a great link to education components. So I'm talking more than I needed to answer your question, but yeah, it's those 5 target species. And of great importance, and this is a conversation you and I had 6 months ago at that ASA, of great importance. I was in this group 10 years ago as the chief of the water resources for Fish and Wildlife Service. It was a soul-sucking, never got anything done cluster, because at that time it was species battling species. You had the willow flycatcher battling the yellow-billed cuckoo experts, and now in the last 5 years, the executive committee has really done a significant sea change where they're no longer going for single species metrics. They're going for habitat development. Adaptive habitat is their new MO. And I want to say that works for us, right? I'm not trying to be, I want to make the Endangered Species Act more effective. And right now it's lost in efficiencies and it gets conflict from coast to coast. Some of the work we are already doing, and with this group we can do better, is resolving some of those areas of uncertainty, right? Associated with how do you apply water to maximize southwestern willow flycatcher habitat? Well, it's, much to our surprise, that's still an active scientific debate, right? So just want to share those thoughts.
Thank you very much. And I think that we might want to have a motion to approve the 3 participants then, because it is a requirement that we complete that letter. And so Chair, do you agree with me? This is Vice Chair. Yes. So if you've looked in your board packet, there is this is something that was in there for your consideration. For those of you who are new to the board, this would not be the first memorandum of agreement that we have with other entities. We have one with the county, for example, and with others. So we will soon have one with the Middle Rio Grande Conservancy District about a matter, I expect. So I believe everyone has read this. The question is, would you approve this signing the memorandum? We agree to apply to this organization, and would you agree to the nomination of the chair, vice chair, and district director to be the 3 people on representing us there? Yes, you have the floor before I turn it over to Supervisor Bonine.
No, just the verbiage they're using as a primary representative would be the chair. His number 1 alternate would be our vice, and I'd be the second alternate, just to be in conformance with their language.
Or
this is Supervisor Bonine. I move that we approve signing the memorandum of agreement for the Middle Rio Grande Endangered Species Collaborative Program. We that our chair serve as the primary representative, our vice chair serve as the secondary or the alternate representative, and that our district director serve as the alternate
It has been moved, and is there a second? Supervisor Fisher, you have the floor.
Mr. Fisher, I second that motion.
Thank you, Supervisor Fisher. It has been moved and seconded that the Valencia Soil and Water Conservation District sign the memorandum of agreement with the Middle Rio Grande Endangered Species Collaborative, and that the chair be the primary contact, the vice chair, the first alternate, and the district director, the second alternate. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, I will now call for a vote by hand raising. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Thank you, Supervisor Abeyta. Thank you, Supervisor Baca. This motion passes. 7 hands raised unanimously. Thank you very much. And we'll look forward to reporting back to the board on this. And thank you. I think that we all should clap. I think this is Supervisor Fisher's first motion. Thank you very much. And we are, pardon? Second, excuse me. I apologize. Your first second. Thank you very much for being the second to the first. Okay. Yeah, we're expecting a motion soon. Okay. So we're going to now, with everyone's approval, we'll now move on. We're about 10 minutes, 11 minutes behind, but we're gonna, no, actually we're 10 minutes behind to the Dan Goodman Scholarship. So I'll take this one on. He is comprised of the chair, the vice chair, and treasurer Cordova. We received, I think, 5 applications. 5 applications. Unfortunately, 4 of them were not complete. The application is very clear that the application must be submitted completely. And you can't apply for a grant application that it's not complete. You can't apply for a loan from the bank. You can't go get your driver's license if your information isn't complete. You can't get utilities on if your information isn't complete. So, pardon me? Yeah, and so if an application isn't complete, it is not in consideration. Now, having said that, I am really pleased to tell you that we had a very good application. Not only was this complete, this was well thought out in every aspect. We have a young woman, Rio Romero, who is from Los Lunas. She is involved in her family farming and ranching. She's involved in soccer. She's involved in other methods in the community, a group in the community that aims to stop the distribution and sale of tobacco products to minors. She's involved in leadership at her school. She has almost a 4.0 grade average. This I'm telling you off the top of my head because I was impressed. I'm not reading a cheat sheet here. She had stellar letters of recommendations. And I thought, and I know the committee members agreed, that she had a thoughtful essay. It was really interesting and I will pass this around for you to look at, that she described how she came to the conclusion that she wanted to have a life with a professional training, and engagement in the environment. And she looked at a bunch of different things, and she really discovered that this was her passion. What a great fit, and to me, it was so reassuring to read such a thorough, well thought of application. I think that I speak on behalf of the committee that we unanimously recommend that Rio Romero be awarded the Dan Goodman Award at this time. And if there are any questions, we're really happy. We didn't award anything last time, right? So we had $1,500, and the last award that we made was, yes, please. I'm turning it over to the business manager.
This is business manager McCready. I can remember the individual's name, and if you give me 1 second, I can tell you who it was. It was to Jaden Garcia, and I believe the amount was $500.
But what year was that? Was that last year?
20.
Yes, and we tried to get another, but Yeah, in the fall, but again, we had an issue of applications being incomplete. Now, the good thing is that we did receive 5 applications, and we'll write letters depending on the approval of the board, saying we welcome applications. Please be certain that they're complete. Hold on one second, Laura. I appreciate your volunteering, I think, to write such letters. No worries. Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, in any case, the point is, I'm looking for a motion to approve our awarding a scholarship. It could be in the amount of $500, and then we open it up because we have a $1,500 total, later on in the year, so that we could have 2 cycles. Or if the board wishes to provide a higher amount, I put that up there for your consideration. And I think Treasurer Cordova, you are recognized.
Yes, this is Treasurer Cordova. So we could actually split it if you want to do a fall and a 750, 750. We got the 1,500. And with saying that, I would like to move that we award Rio Romero. And by the way, we all thought it was a boy till we read further on. Rio Romero to receive the Dan Goodman Scholarship for spring 2024. $750.
This is Business Manager McCready. This actually took place in FY24's fiscal year with Jaden Garcia in the amount of $500. It was paid out August 18th for an exact date.
I'm going to call on Supervisor Fisher. You have the floor.
I would like to second that, and have to be 750 each for my. Yeah, I'm seconding. Yes, for my second.
All right, very good. So it has been moved and seconded that we award Rio Romero the Dan Goodman Award in the amount of $750. And is there any further discussion?
Professor, I have a question for that.
Before environmental education.
Is Education Program Manager McCann, just in reference to letters to applicants who did not submit complete applications, are they allowed to resubmit next time around? Like they could, can that be part of the letter that it's like, complete and then they can resubmit or no?
The committee, it would welcome a returned a completed application. It will not be for this cycle. It would be for a future cycle. Right. It would have to start from zero.
Right.
It would have to be completed and up to date.
Exactly.
Yeah. So thank you very much for that question, and it's been moved and seconded. No further questions. I don't see other hands. Now call for a vote on this motion by show of hands. All those in favor, please raise your hand. And do I have hands raised online? Hello. Thank you, Super. Thank you. Okay, so guess what? We have 7 hands raised. Motion passes unanimously. Fantastic. And I'd like, with the board's approval, I'd like that we invite this young lady to come to our next board meeting for the award. Okay.
Vice Chair?
Yes, Treasurer Cordova, you have the floor.
So just that we're on this topic, I did get a call from the public, and I don't know who did the application, but she was requesting that we send letters to the applicants as to whether they received the award or didn't receive. Are we going to be doing that?
We're going to do that. Yeah.
Okay.
Treasurer Cordova, I had intimated that in my comment to Environmental Education Manager McCann. We will send out letters saying thank you for your application. It was not complete. We encourage you to apply for the next cycle. Yeah.
You sign it?
Correct. An application that is not signed is not a complete application. Yeah, you just try and do anything without your signature. it just doesn't happen. And that's it. Yeah. Business Manager McCready, you have the floor.
This is Business Manager McCready. I actually have like certificate paper. Do you guys want like a printed out certificate? And would you like to give me like a draft of what you'd like it to look like?
Thank you very much, Business Manager McCready. Before the next meeting, I think we should definitely do that. I think it would just make it really nice. We give them a check and a certificate, and we have done that before. I think that's great. So we probably have verbiage. If not, we'll reinvent the wheel. Very, very good. So it always makes me happy to award students for their interest in the work that we do. And I would also like to say that this is a possible person to recruit for our IYCC program. So keep that in mind. Yeah. Okay. Now, without further ado, I'd like to move us on to the pedestrian bridge update. I'll take that if that's all right, Chair Camarena. So we agreed to have our lawyer take a look at this. I consulted as a sort of like the informal legal point person on the board. I consulted with our attorney of record, who we have on retainer, Brian Harris, who's done work for us before, to please look into what accepting the bridge would look like, from the Middle Rio Grande Conservancy District, because there are questions of liability, there's questions of maintenance, there's questions of signage, etc. And he is working on this. He believes that we had a conversation today. He believes that we would have a limited liability to be determined. We would be signing a memorandum of understanding agreement with MRGCD if we were to accept this bridge. And he proposes that he speak with MRGCD's attorney. He already knows that this is the kind of thing that attorney does all the time, but just to sort of figure out the whys and the wherefores and that kind of thing. And that way he will be able to brief us best and in writing at our next board meeting. And, my sense was that we could have some time from MRGCD. I would not recommend that this district accepts such a huge gift formally without really understanding what that means. The last thing I'd want is a Trojan horse. So having said that, I yield for anyone who would have any questions. Supervisor Bonine, you have the floor.
This is Supervisor Bonine. I guess one of my questions is from a asset perspective. Is this something that we would have to list and put like on a depreciation schedule, that sort of thing? I think there's some accounting questions in addition to the legal question that we maybe need to think about.
Supervisor Bonine, thank you very much. As far as I know, and we'll have this answered. If it's ours and we own it, we're going to have to depreciate it, but I will have that, confirmed or denied. But that is from my understanding of, at this moment, the answer would be yes.
Vice Chair.
Chair Camarena, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. This is Supervisor Camarena. Some of the initial language that we've received regarding the conveyance of this bridge to the district really pinpointed that we would own it, and it would be for 50 years. And if for whatever reason it had to be removed, that would be established, and we would have to remove it and pay for that. So there are some questions like that in terms of, well, what does owning it mean? And I just think we need to proceed with eyes open and make sure we're legal in all of the language that we buy into, and make sure that we understand what we're getting into. Now, some of the history here is that the district went to bat for us because we were basically saying we would like the bridge in order to conduct educational trips from Whitfield over into the river and so forth. It was never intended to be a conveyance vehicle for just anybody and everybody. It was mostly from Whitfield to the river. So it was kind of a limited use idea tied to Whitfield activities. And as we become aware, there's been vandalism, there's been graffiti, there's been a very kind of a destructive reaction by some of the folks to that bridge. A motorcycle going across. I mean, so it's problematic. And I don't know that we kind of identified all those unintended consequences early on. There was a lot of excitement about the idea. It's a good idea. It just comes with some management issues that we have to be prepared to deal with, and make sure that we're not just buying in without really knowing what we're buying. I yield back.
Chair Camarena, and I did see that Supervisor Fisher had his hand raised first, so you have the floor, and then I'll bring it over to you, Treasurer Cordova. You have the floor.
Fisher, I was just curious, is there another agency, possibly the county, that would want to share in the upkeep or the expense of this, since it's going to be used by people in the county?
Well, this is Supervisor Camarena. As a response, I don't know. I just go back to why the bridge was put in place to begin with, and it was really the intention of the bridge being a conveyance for opportunities for users at Whitfield to go across to the river, primarily ourselves and our education. And so, like any infrastructure, whether the county would buy in or not, they'd have to ask themselves, well, what's in it for us? Why would we want to take on more headache, in terms of this maintenance and liability and amortization and all of that? So I don't know the answer to your question. I would be skeptical that they would want to buy in, because it serves no purpose to them. This is over a drain that is a physical barrier from access at Whitfield to the river. The district, the MRGCD, already has the conveyance they need for maintenance of that drain. They've got roads on either side, so they don't need the bridge. But they wanted to support us, and they went to bat, and they staked their reputation on with the legislature to get us the funds to build it. So we can't leave it as egg on anybody's face. So we just need to be eyes open and be aware that if in fact it's ours and we take that on, what does that mean? And how do you manage access? Because right now, anybody that's going up and down the road can cross that bridge and do whatever. We've already had vandalism on some of the approaches on one side that I remember, if I remember correctly. And we've even had questions, well, can equestrian folks go across that, and so forth and so on. And so I think we need to stick true to what our needs are as the managers of this piece of ground we call Whitfield Wildlife Conservation Area. What are our needs, and stay true to those, and not adjust our management of this area because of the bridge. That's my opinion. I yield back.
Follow up, because if you don't, I wanted to chime
Yes,
in.
I do have a follow up. When the Whitfield is closed, is there any way that we could have that closed, have the access closed, where people couldn't use it or have access to it?
We're going to come back to that. That is exactly something I wanted to touch on, because we had an interesting conversation. Before we answer that question, let me ask Treasurer Cordova to chime in. You have the floor.
So it's a wonderful that we have the bridge, and there's no if, and, buts, or ors about it. We've already discussed how it's already been vandalized. Yes, it has. But the biggest reason it is getting vandalized is because the gates to get into the canals and the ditches, they're open 24/7, 365. Every Tom, Dick, and Harry has a key to get into the gate, and therefore people are coming in and camping. They are dumping their trash everywhere. I have proof on my phone because I take the photos when I walk there at least once a week minimum. And there's also drug problem where meth, or I think they're probably on meth because they look kind of crazy as they're driving, almost running over me and my dogs as we're trying to take a little walk. So we had this earlier, and MRGCD is never in a gazillion years going to stop giving every Tom, Dick, and Harry a key. However, they've never tried to give us a bridge before, and that we have to take care of it. So I just think it would be prudent if we just asked them to close that gate and only let officials that need to get through there. And that will help with the vandalism anyway. And that's just my 2 cents. I yield.
I'd like to add something, but I'm going to let you intervene. You have the floor, District Director Heltzinger.
Yeah, just a quick observation is it seems like we're going down the right path. We have leverage here that we've never had before. We've had direct negative impact the way those gates are not managed, but that's the truth up and down the entire corridor. It's not just in our little neck, right? The MRGCD is beyond their capacity to manage their riverways. I think that the vice chair has set us up for exactly the right dialogue. Our lawyer's going to talk to their lawyers and play some hardball and see what we can get to make sure our interests are best being protected. But my final point is just to echo what Abel said. There's history here. This predates all of us. The ask from Valencia soil. I know this does, Teresa. I've talked to Molly Madden, who this was a point of conversation 20 years ago. So this has been a conversation of we want a bridge there for our purposes for quite some time, and MRGCD tried to stand up on our behalf, and so I know I want to get something more manageable for us, but I also am really concerned of burning bridges with our primary responsible partner.
Thank you very much for that observation, and there is no intent to burn a bridge, and I appreciate the metaphor.
Madam Vice Chair, if I can just echo one point that you made, and it hasn't been raised. There is legislative interest in how this money was spent, how it's going to be used, and so forth and so on. There's even been talk of having a christening of the bridge. So my point is, we need to have our narrative put together and questions and anticipated questions addressed, because if we don't, others will fill the void. And they'll build expectation, and then there we are trying to figure out, oh, hold on, wait a minute. So I'm just suggesting that before we get excited about breaking a bottle of champagne on the bridge, so to speak, that we have the conversation, the lawyers talking to each other, and then leadership talking, so that we can ferret out these potential situations to the best of our ability, and then celebrate it in a way that others can stand behind it and not be pressured by users. Well, why can't we use the bridge? See, those things. Anyway,
Thank you. I'm going to just intervene first, if I may, please, Supervisor Bonin. Okay, so this is Vice Chair Smith-Day-Sharif. We had a conversation driving back from the legislature on January 31st. The leadership of the board did. And one of the things that just sort of was this light bulb moment was posing a question of, why does the bridge have to run us? Okay, why do we change our operations for the bridge when the bridge, the idea was to serve our education and outreach purposes? I mean, to have kids learn about this environment, and really this whole area is a riparian area that used to be physically linked to the river, and now we can, and it is. I mean, it still is. Historically, there was no drain and all of that. Now we can cross to the drain and get to the river like this. So isn't that our mission? Don't we have that bridge open when we're open? Possibly. Don't we ask for MRGCD to put some sort of protection so that a motorized vehicle can't come across? Those kinds of things, not a cattle guard, but it's something where, a barrier we're going to have to go around to cross. And we don't have to have Whitfield open more hours with a key card to get in. No, this is for our purposes. Those are some considerations. It was Supervisor Bonine, and then I'll come back to you, Treasurer Cordova. You have the floor.
Thank you. This is Supervisor Bonine. Do we know how the road, is it MRGC? Is it a private road? I mean,
it's a ditch. It's MRGCD.
Right, but who's the authority? Whose road is it? I think that's an important.
MRGCD.
Okay, so. Okay. So I think we're right on the right track, and if that's a question that the attorneys ought to be talking about is how controlling access on the bridge, but I also am very supportive of the idea that, yeah, let's make it so that, you know, there's ways to build structures so that only foot traffic can go across it.
Yep,
you know.
absolutely. Yep. And because, you know, we are not we're pedestrians. The equestrians have other crossings, and that's not our business. We got out of the horse business. With that, I'm going to call on Treasurer Cordova.
I'm just going to make an observation, and I just got that from our education, Laura. We can't even take kids to the river right now because those gates are open all the time and all the trees are graffitied with inappropriate things for children to actually see and read. So it would be a win-win if we could present it as a win-win and a big opportunity to help clean up this area with MRGCD and keep the gate locked. I'm going to just go back with it again. I'm sorry, and I yield.
I hope we can bring this to a conclusion, but I'm going to recognize you again, and I hope, Supervisor Fisher, that I answered your question in what I said just a moment ago. You have the floor.
What I was going to say was, you know, when you look at a marina and they have a gate there that only people with proper access can go through, and it's fenced off on both sides to where only the ones that should have access have access. And if we could do that where when we're open, the hours are open here, that can be open. Otherwise, it's closed. I yield back.
Thank you very much for everybody's participation in this. I'm going to ask Chair Camarena, do you think we need a motion asking the attorney to speak with the MRGCD's attorney, or is it enough that on behalf of the board, I've spoken with him and we have him on retainer? But you have the floor, Chair Camarena.
You know, is that what you've done is appropriate and it represents the board, and it's the kind of fact gathering that we all have the opportunity to do as long as we are communicating with each other about that. And you've kept us informed. So I think let that play out. Let them have the conversation and then come back to us and say, well, here's what you all need to think about, you know, and you can broker those concerns or ideas or opportunities with the district and sort it out. And the district will agree to what they're going to agree to, and we have to be clear about what we want to agree to. There's got to be a way to deal with egress and ingress on those roads and across the bridge, et cetera. Because I think it's just a value added feature. That bridge adds value. It does, but it can't be everything to everybody.
I've learned another phrase from you, Chair Camarena. You cannot be everyone to everybody at all times. So I think there's a movie along those lines. Okay, having said that, I want us to move on now to the Land of Enchantment Legacy Fund Training. I'm going to be very brief about this. If you're okay with that, I'll take this, Chair Camarena. Okay, so when we were briefed at our meeting with the New Mexico Association of Conservation Districts about these new funding opportunities and training so that districts can be ready to apply for Land of Enchantment Legacy funds. There are 4 different categories, and the message that was coming out loud and clear was they expect us to go through the training, and NMACD is really pushing for us to be in the same room when this is done, because this comes up with collaboration, and one of our obligations, I don't know how many of us sat in on the pre-training session a week or so ago. The expectation is that we come to that meeting with an idea of what particular thing we might want to ask for, and we're going to get trained by a professional person. And if we're in the same room, there a lot of good dynamics can happen. And so this is the only reason this is on here, to really, and on this agenda, is to encourage all of you, please, if possible, to come here in person. We're going to have a special meeting because we'll have to, it'll be noticed, it'll be published. but that's what yes, here at Whitfield, and that's what it will be for. And I did confirm it's the 11th of March. So yeah, so it's several hours, but if you want, we can do a potluck afterwards, whatever. I mean, I think it's a great opportunity. I'm happy to take any questions. Pardon, the time is 8 to 12 on March 11th. It's a Monday. And once again, deadlines, this is going to open for application. The Land of Enchantment Legacy Funds, in their several categories, will be opened for application as of March 1st, and it closes, I think, May, what does it say? May 3rd. No exceptions, not even 1 minute for technical difficulties. I mean, we've been there and have done that. Yeah. So the point is, please come. If you have any questions, I'm happy to take them. And if not, we'll move on to the next agenda item. Unless, Richard, you want to host us, we'll all go over to Laguna. I'm joking, and my intention as vice chair is not to put you on the spot. And so having done that, I apologize. And let's move on now to our discussion on committees. I sent some folks an addition. We had talked about this before, and I put up a revised, for your consideration, a revised extra committee. It's not on the grid, but it would be potentially an executive committee. And then the more and more I thought about this, I really thought we should have a, revenue diversification committee. You come up with a good name. It's more than grants. It's like looking for other opportunities to fund this district. So I called it tentatively an income opportunities committee, and I sent you some documents on that. So I can yield now to the chair if you'd like to talk about historically these committees, or do you want me to take it? As you wish. Chair, you have the floor.
Thank you. This is Chairman Camarena. Appreciate this. We just need closure on the committee assignments, one, and then two, the proposal to have a revision of the mill levy committee and calling it income generating committee, grant funding committee, whatever we want to call it. That I think is a good stroke of business. And then the other was to revisit the idea of what we once called the executive committee. And the vice chair has put together some thoughts there that I've looked at and have commented on. And so I think the division of labor on all these committees is important. And so I want to be sure we get that nailed down, if at all possible. And then the other committee ideas we can discuss. So kind of a priority thing here, if you will. Let's do the fill the blanks on the matrix that our director put together, and then go from there. Does that sound workable? I think so. Yeah, it's part of this. Yeah. Okay. I just feel like we have some standing committees that we need some representation on, and we probably should get clear about that.
Chair Camarena, I'm going to suggest that we not fill the mill levy committee yet, because maybe that'll be morphed.
Okay.
So if you would agree to that compromise.
Makes
Okay.
sense.
And one of the rules that we have, and we think it served us well because it gives an opportunity for people to put their toes in the water and see how they feel about certain committees, if it's a good match, is that a committee chair isn't to a board member who hasn't completed a year of service or close to a year. I think you're a year as of this month, aren't you? Yeah, so I'd like to all clap for Supervisor Cordova's service, both as an appointed and elected member. Yeah. So she's eligible to be a chair of a committee. In any case, that's the reasoning there, and it allows you as new members of this board to see where your interests might be a good match. So having said that, I think we should open it up to volunteers or if anybody has any specific questions.
Madam Vice Chair, maybe Andrew could just read the committees and ask anybody like who wants to be on it, because it's hard to read from here.
Happy to do that if it's the pleasure of the.
Yes, you have the floor, District Director Halsinger.
So we currently have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 committees that are on our current list. And remember, this is our working model to be able to be compliant with the Open Meetings Act and being able to get our work done and figure out the details of issues without having a quorum. So it's no more than 3 board members on any committee. And then the chair of that committee is responsible to organize the meeting and then report out to the full board with whatever the discussion items were from their respective committee. So right now, just a couple hours ago, we had our first inaugural meeting of the Education Committee, which we proposed that Pam Cordova be the chair there for obvious reasons. I'll just note that of the 7 committees, the 2 committees that have most staff involvement are the Education Committee, which Laura really, the Education program manager historically does most of the legwork and stands things up and coordinates with the chair. And the Whitfield Committee, by way of counterpart, that's Johnny's position. So he does a lot of legwork to stand things up. Other committees are much more led by the board supervisors. But just to make that note, so the committees are Education Committee, East Valencia Urban Gardens Program Committee, Financial Assistance Committee, the Land Use Committee, Mill Levy Committee, Personnel Committee, and the Whitfield Committee. So of those, as you can see as a consequence of Dwana Draskowitz's no longer serving on our board, she was the Financial Assistance Committee chair. So I'm really looking for leadership from the board to fill that slot. That's the one slot that I don't have a chair proposed or designated. And I'm looking at you, my good friend. Is that something you might be willing to consider, Ms. Cordova? I just want you to know I'm going to do 95% of the legwork. It's a one-time a year role that the Financial Assistance Committee person chairs. When I've stood up that year's proposals and I get it all ranked, I bring the chair in to say, okay, here's the order, here's the ranking. Let's make some decisions, and then that goes in front of the entire board, and we make award decisions for a financial assistance program. Which just for everyone's knowledge, we have for the last 4 years now, I think we have $40,000 reserved to support the Financial Assistance Committee. 10 of those $1,000 goes to our standalone projects, first come first serve basis. 30,000 goes to our standard competitive conservation projects, which are the ones that we have to rank and make some funding decisions. So,
okay, Andrew, I'm happy to do that, but if someone else wants to serve on this committee with me, I would want them to help serve. Okay?
Yeah, they can. I'm now finally going to recognize Supervisor Baca. Thank you. It's really hard, and I apologize to be looking for hands and managing the floor down here. So thank you, and you have the floor. Supervisor Baca, I think you're muted. Supervisor Baca, we cannot hear you.
Can you hear me now?
There you go.
We can.
Okay,
you have
wonderful.
the floor.
Sorry. All right, thank you, Madam Vice Chair. I just had wanted some clarification as far as myself and Supervisor Fisher. We cannot head any one of the committees, but we can sit on the committee. Is that correct?
Correct. For 1 year, your first year, our experience is that it's really been beneficial for our new members to join committees and see which committees are good fits. And following year, because this is renewed yearly, if you'd like to be a chair, you put your hand up and I'll recognize you, or the chair will recognize you before I did tonight.
Okay. If Pam is willing to take on the chair position of the Financial Assistance Committee, I will take a seat in that committee as well.
Very much. So I think we can write those names down on the grid. Thank you, Supervisor Baca. You can put your hand down unless you have a follow-up. Is there anyone else wishing to continue in the roles in which their names are already, or switch around or join a committee? And Supervisor Bonine, I believe you are the chair of the land use plan, and there have been some, challenges to get that going, and we don't have to go into details, but we all know what some of them were. It turns out the legacy funding can provide funding to do a land use plan. So this may be something that could help that committee. Just wanted to say it may be an incentive for you to keep on that committee, but just thought I'd add that. Is there anyone that would like the floor? Any Chair Camarena, you have the floor.
Yes, thank you, Madam Vice Chair. This is Supervisor Camarena. So being that I feel like I need to just get through this methodically and do it as quickly as you can, looking at the clock. The Education Committee, Supervisor Cordova, I think you've agreed to be the chair. Is there anyone else on the board that wants to assist in that? Because we only have her, I think, unless there's somebody I'm missing. Okay, so we need someone else there, supervisors.
So Supervisor Abeta here. So it looks like we need a chair and another committee member or supervisor member.
Yes, we need another committee member for the Education Committee. Are you volunteering?
Sure.
Thank you.
Are you volunteering, Supervisor Abeta, to be on the Education Committee?
Yes.
Yes, I can.
Okay, very good. And I think, and we would like to know if you will continue on our East Valencia Urban Gardens Committee.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Very good. Is there anyone else on the board? So could you put an X, please, under Supervisor Abeta's name for education? You did that, right? Oh, okay, very good. All right. So I think, does anyone else wish to be on education or the East Valencia Urban Gardens Program Committee at this point? Okay, if not, let's move on to financial assistance. I think we've got that committee with Nick Baca and the chair being Treasurer Cordova. If a third person wants to come on, that's fine. Are you interested? Very good. Oh, thank you and welcome. Supervisor Fisher wishes to join the Financial Assistance Committee. So that's the third. Very good. Land use. I'm just going right down. Does that work for you? Land Use Committee. We have had Supervisor Bonine chair. You have the floor, Supervisor Bonine.
Yeah, I'm willing to continue. I think at some point we need to have a discussion about the land use plan. I've been on this board 8 years, I think, and is it 9? Okay. So we've been kicking this particular can down the road for at least 7 of those 9 years, and I think we have to question the importance of it. I think it's important, but I think maybe we need to have a discussion, and now is not the time to have that.
Yeah. Thank you very much for that. And one of the things that we could do at our March 11th meeting is, it is one of the programmatic areas for which you can ask for funding in the legacy fund. So maybe that's a thing that, we turf that out to a grant application, and there's no precluding applying for every program, by the way. So, I mean, it's just what we're able to do in terms of capacity and how this stuff, we don't want stuff to hurt us. We're not going for every low-lying fruit. That is another Chair Camarena expression. I'm beginning to write them down. Chair Camarena, did you wish to have the floor?
I would like to add my name to the Land Use Committee to work with you, Richard, on this and try to get it so we don't kick the can down anymore. And if we can take advantage of some help like this, that'd be great. But I think you raise a very key question. What is it and why do we need it and where do we want to take it? And you and I can have that conversation. So I'd put my name there, but I want to take my name off the Mill Levy Committee as chair. Yes. Personnel.
This is Vice Chair Smith A. Sharif. The Personnel Committee normally is run by part of the leadership. And so historically, it's been the chair who chairs that committee and vice chair is on. And I think that that's worked well. Chair, are you willing to continue?
Sure, I'd be willing to continue.
I'm willing to continue on the committee. So if someone else, I mean, I think that was with the district director, that worked well. I don't think we need another person on there. I'd rather have someone be on another committee that's really useful.
Mm-hmm.
Is that all right? Is that all right? Okay. And then Whitfield Committee. Normally this has been chaired by Chair Camarena. And one of the reasons why I'm on that committee is because I used to be the chairperson when we had a separate committee for the Rio Abajo Conservation Area. So I moved on to this committee. It's a committee I am still interested in serving on if it's pleasure of the board. And because of your family and personal commitment to Whitfield, you have wanted to be on that. And if you want to continue, so I'm just asking questions. Okay, so if it's the pleasure of the board, we would stay on. Supervisor Bonine, you have the floor.
Thank you. This is Supervisor Bonine. Can we, is the purpose of the Whitfield Committee, is there enough? I'm wondering if we can combine the Land Use Committee and the Whitfield Committee. Do they need to be separate? I mean, do they need to be separate?
District Director Housinger, you have the floor.
Thank you, Vice Chair, and thank you, Richard, for your question. I think absolutely the answer is yes, they need to be separate, because my whole sense is the Whitfield Committee is in our 300 acres of land, owned land, so we're focused on our fee title lands that we're operating. The Land Use Committee is the full, and I'm going to channel the way you captured it before. The Land Use Committee properly produced, the land use plan is the big sandbox that we're playing in for all times. And we may not play in this part this year or that part that year, but it's supposed to do the full capture of the district's responsibilities for 1.4 million acres. And it's a protection against something we've been criticized for in the past, which is our Whitfield lands interfere with us being more relevant to the people outside of the floodplain, right? So I really put that opinion forward. But I share with your frustration. The last time we really opened that puppy up was right when I retired in 2019, and it's a gumbled up mess. And getting, I don't know if we just start from scratch. I mean, so that's a conversation for another day, but I just want to respond to your question of combining them, because I think the Whitfield Committee is the most active of all the committees.
Before I yield the floor to you, Chair Camarena, I wanted to say that on March 11th, if we come together for that training, one of the things that may come up is applying for a land use grant. And if we do, and that fulfills the land use committee, that can go to a committee that's, a call-up committee. In other words, not a standing, right? It would be periodically looked at. You have the floor, Chair Camarena.
Thank you, Vice Chair Smith Sharif. This is Supervisor Cameron. That's where I was going with it. I don't see there needing to be a standing land use committee. I think we just need to get a closure on the plan, and maybe that gets revisited every 4 or 5 years or something like that. But once we frame the universe for ourselves, and from that comes a 5-year plan, and from that comes an annual plan, then I think that was the intent. And if we can get some help to structure that land use plan to meet that intent, then the land use committee can go away, or it can just be pushed to the side until it's needed. So that would be my reaction. I yield back.
Chair, you have the floor.
Yes, my question is about the Whitfield. Is on that committee, is that going to be a part of the increased buildings and use of this?
Thank you very much, Supervisor Fisher. We have already gotten capital outlay for our phase 2, which phase 2 and even a phase 3 was envisioned way back when the dinosaurs were roaming on the earth. Just kidding. But I mean, it was like almost 20 years ago. So if we get our economic development authority, which is the pass-through for the emergency funding, FEMA funding for disaster relief, if we get that, and it's a $2.1 million grant application, whereby we are matching with $770-some thousand. If we get that, the building gets built. And some of the phase 3 things get built and a few other things. So that committee will oversee all of that. I hope that answers your question. Do you have
the reason I was asking, because when I was talking with Andrew, when I first came in, was inspector.
Mm-hmm.
So even though it's been some years, I still have.
So one of the things that we can do is either one of us can step down if you're telling us you want to be on it, or if you wanted to participate, one of us could not be in a meeting and you could provide advice and counsel. And if you wanted to go to a 4-person, then we just have to notice the committee meeting if a 4th person wants to attend of the board. Mr. Chair, you have the floor.
Thank you, Vice Chair Smith-Sharif. My reaction, Supervisor, this is Supervisor Cameron. My reaction, Supervisor Fisher, is that you might best serve this board by being kind of a project contact or a project overseer on behalf of the board, working with the director, if that would be, if we get the grant. So, just to reiterate, I think based on your experience, we all bring different things to the board. And if your expertise is, as you say, the most valuable role would just be for the board to say, we would like you to represent and assist the director in the day-to-day kind of stuff, or as needed to different phases of the activity of building and such. And you wouldn't have to be on a committee per se. It would just be a volunteer assignment, and that would be your focus. Yeah, yeah.
Oh, yeah. We need a quarter. We need to come in next quarter and redo this. Right. So this is our path forward. Sometimes you gotta just figure out. Vice Chair recognizes District Director Houtsinger.
Just to put a fine point on the conversation between supervisors that we've just had, when you and I had that talk, exactly what I was envisioning is you'd be a special hired hand to engage in project assessment, right? Which is super valuable. I just can't tell you how appreciative I'd have to have an intelligent person who's been down this road before to make sure we're properly monitoring the project. It's a different task that the committee serves, which is higher level leadership and making sure that we're moving in the right direction on all sorts of things, right? So I really think my sense, just as Abel captured it, is your expertise. Let's keep you focused on the things that are coming to us, because this is probably the best chance we're ever going to have in this organization's life to get quality infrastructure built, and having someone who knows, oh wait, that's askew. What the hell's going on there? I want that person that I can call up and not have to go through the committee arrangement, because that's a much more timely workflow for me.
And if I may add, and then I'd like to move us on. and I'm hoping you can give me a copy for the purpose of the minutes of all of these assignments, because I couldn't keep it up. If I may add, if we get this big grant, it's going to be all hands on deck, but there should be someone who really knows the deck. So thank you very much. My metaphors aren't as good as the chairs. Okay, now with that, I think we've hit the committees that are on the grid with the exception of the mill levy. Could we look then at the Income Opportunities Committee? You can call it something different. My purpose here was to be a committee that takes a look. Staff brings us some opportunities for grants, and we can review them and recommend, which grants are the fruit that we're going to go after to put in our orchard. But also, there are going to be more opportunities, especially if you look at the Land of Enchantment Legacy funds, to go after funds that will help us be in better stead to ask for capital outlay. So this could be the sounding board for that. Was just trying to find a way that we organize some activity in the face of all these coming opportunities. And so we would make recommendations to the board on which grants to approve that we go after. And then once they're approved, this committee can help edit the grants, help review the grants, because having an extra set of eyes makes sure the district speaks in a proper voice. And I think we've all helped each other make grants that come out better working collaboratively. Would you agree, Conservation Manager Chavez, to that? Yeah. So, and then we also could write grants that are approved. And I just kind of wanted to formalize that, because I know I've taken the lead on several grants, and I would rather that that be channelized. Those were my thoughts. And I open it up to questions. And the other idea I had was, this committee could be also the sounding board, because the mill levy committee is pretty dormant, but this could be the sounding board for advising the board on reviewing and planning for continuation or increases of mill levy, in the future. That could be a task. So we could retire the mill levy committee and bring it up if we needed to. So there it is.
This is thank you. This is the chair, Supervisor Camarena. If you wanted a label for this, it's kind of the Funding Opportunities Committee, and it could be an array of things, and it just be the first go-to group to kind of help structure and guide where the energy is being invested, because there's an awful lot of people coming at us. Why don't you apply for this grant? Why don't you go for that grant? And it's just this tremendous excitement that happens, and yet it's a lot of energy and a lot of investment. And so to have a group that would be a sounding board to say, do we really want to kick that one into gear, or kick it down the road, or and recognize that none of these committees make decisions. They get kicked back to the board. That's just the way these always have been structured. So this group might be the first sieve to kind of help establish, that one, let's put that on the back burner. Let's just put it in idle. And this one looks like it would be worth going for. Let's have the rest of the rest of the board weigh in, and because we can't just keep piling stuff on people's plates. It just can't do that. It just, stuff starts to get a lick and a promise, and then it doesn't get done at all, because we've got all these things in motion. And so we have to be choosy. And maybe this committee would be the first place to help broker the choosing and recommendations to the board at large. So it's funding opportunities, I think, is what we're talking about.
Come out in it, because I was so struggling to find the right words, and I'm like, income generating, funding diversification. I finally gave up. So thank you. I love funding opportunities. Is there any you have the language in front of you?
What's that? It would never yield anything. Yeah.
So having said that, I just sighed. Anything that we here that needs revision, could we roll the mill levy in this way? board increase of its current mill levy.
Well, it's a mill levy is a potential funding opportunity, and
That's what
so
I thought. But
yeah.
do you like that wording? Are you okay with that?
Doesn't.
Yeah.
We have to adopt the committee. That's the thing. If we could.
Sure. I mean, if we want to label the mill levy in there in that language, I don't have an issue with that myself. But here I am speaking out of turn.
We call for a motion to get this committee approved, and it would be called the Funding Opportunities Committee. Supervisor Bonin, you have the floor.
Thank you. I move that we establish a new committee called the Funding Opportunities Committee
And adopt the
and adopt the charter as presented.
Thank you. Is there a second? Supervisor Fisher, you have the floor.
I second.
Okay, very good. The third is a charm. And is there any further discussion? I think we've pretty much done that. Yep, exactly. So hearing none, I'm going to now call a vote by raising one hand. So all those in favor of establishing this committee and adopting its charter, raise your hand. Thank you. And there are 7 hands raised. Thank you very much. We have a new committee. Okay. Very good.
Madam Vice Chair, this is the Supervisor Camarena. May I have the floor? So did we establish who's on the? I can't see the language up there. Okay, so we need to populate this committee.
Yes. So who would like to be on this? I'm volunteering to be the chair of this committee if it's the pleasure of the board.
Cool.
I've been doing this work for a while, so.
Chair, who's going to help?
I don't know.
If I may have the floor, Madam Vice Chair, this is Supervisor Camarena. I don't want to put any pressure or anybody on the spotlight or on the spot, but I'm wondering, Supervisor Baca, if this might be one of those areas that you might have some interest in, given your financial background and the ideas that you might have that would be helpful to the workings of this committee. I'm just asking. I yield back.
Yes, thank you. Chairman, I would go ahead and accept a seat on the Funding Opportunities Committee.
Thank you very much, Supervisor Baca. And if anyone else wants to be on it, I'm going to suggest that, we just adopted this. So if you want to think about it, there's still room for another person to sign up next time. So, no, it's just the board, vice chair, and Supervisor Goodman. Abel, are you on it too?
For what?
Are you on this committee? I didn't see that you were.
No,
No, he's not. No. So there's still a position available. Yeah. Needed these kinds of things, and try to get the language in. Chair Camarena has suggested a change to sentence number 2 under roles and responsibilities, saying.
Want me to read it?
Sure.
This is Vice Supervisor Camarena. Just the wording off the top of my head as I pondered, what does this committee do? And I tried to capture this way. Advise on the intent and purpose of board decisions and identify recommendations for revising such decisions for consideration to the board. In my experience in working with the director, he will call me about a lot of different things. And so we have a conversation. What do you think about this? What do you think about that? And my response to those kind of questions, I always make it clear, I'm not speaking for the board. Let's be real clear about this. I'll give you what I'm thinking. And if it's a matter for the board to revisit a decision, then we need to take it back to the board. And so as I thought about this group, I thought, well, we already have 3 officers designated by the board, the chair, the vice chair, and the treasurer. So you already have kind of a de facto group of a subset of the committee of the board that's already kind of working for different things to serve the board at large. And so if you wanted to more formally structure the 3 officers with a little more framework as to how to best use time, then to me, it's to be available on an as-needed basis to the director to help him understand, well, what did the board mean? Well, I'm kind of reading it this way, but I'm not sure about that. I don't want to go totally out of alignment. And so who does he talk to? Well, he can talk to me. But I think 2 heads or 3 heads are better than 1. And so to me, the officers could function as this committee. We don't have to call it an executive committee. We can call it a sounding board committee or an advisory committee or something that guides the conversation to help the director and the staff implement decisions that the board makes. What was really intended? We make a decision and we mean a lot of different things, I think, in our own individual minds by what I think I raised my hand to. And sometimes it may be the director's going, I think they said this. I hope they said that. Am I correct in my interpretation? Is that their intent? Was this their purpose? And I think we just need to revisit that from time to time without going to the whole board. Now, how could that work? If there's an emergency, there's a 24-hour commitment to notify the public. And we call a board together. Now, it could be that you only need another supervisor because that constitutes a quorum. You only need 4 per quorum. If it's something that requires a little bit of more time to get the whole board engaged, you've got your special meeting, your 3-day notification to the public, and then you have the regular board meeting. So it could either wait to the regular board meeting. If it's that important, we could meet as a whole board for a special meeting, or if it's a real emergency, this group could say, we just need 1 more supervisor engaged in this and make a call, and it's done. And then we report back to the board at large. That's how I've been thinking about it, but that's just the way I'm looking at it. I don't know what the rest of you think. Yeah.
So one of the reasons I did this was, to kind of formalize, as Abel has said, and then discusses time sensitive issues. That's really with what you just discussed, having in mind calling a meeting as necessary. And then, we bring it back to the board. So I think we have the language. We can adopt this if it's the pleasure of the board.
Madam Vice Chair, if I may, on one of the bullet statements where it talks about discuss time-sensitive issues such as those that may arise during natural disasters and other emergencies, and I would add calling for convening the board as appropriate. It could be 24 hours, it could be 3 days, it could be kick it back to the full next meeting. But that would be how you would structure that. This group would say, wait a minute, this is a burning issue. It's a hot potato. Or, hey, we can take a little more time. That's our advice director. Kind of chill a little bit. We'll get to you. Okay, I yield back.
Have the floor.
This is Supervisor Bonine. I really like the idea of calling this the Directors Advisory Board. I think that takes the edge off of the executive and kind of like it's a different level. And I don't think of it that way, but I know that that's a perception that's out there. And I think that's very, I think that's a very prudent, I think it's very prudent to have a board like that, that a collection of people that he can, they can talk to you know, to gain that clarification. I mean, I deal with this every day. I get council agendas that, you know, they have passed a resolution and I'm reading it and it's like, what did they mean? You know, I don't think we have the authority that they say we have, you know, because of the way something's, you know, the tense of something or whatever. So I would be very supportive of that idea.
Okay, thank you very much, Supervisor Bonine. I think the amended title would be the Directors Advisory Committee.
And this is Supervisor Camarena. Supervisor Bonine, what do you think about the idea of the three existing officers, the chair, the vice chair, and the treasurer being that advisory group?
Wonderful. Advisory committee.
Is there a second?
Supervisor Fisher, I second it.
Thank you, Supervisor Fisher. So it has been moved and seconded that this board adopt the charter of the Directors Advisory Committee. And if there's no further discussion, I'd like to call for a vote by showing of hands. Online, virtually, do we have? Okay. Okay, very good. 7 hands are raised, and this, thank you for a new committee. This is approved unanimously, and it's got its membership. And I'd like to close out this part of the meeting. I think we're behind schedule, but I think we can. Yes, Supervisor Fisher, you have the floor.
You were asking to have another supervisor on that?
Supervisor Bonine thought that Abel's idea that it be the leadership right now.
Just the 3. Okay, because I thought you had said 4.
That's if we needed an emergency meeting. Meeting.
What I was suggesting is that this committee, because it's the 3 officers of the board, if we needed an emergency meeting like that, it would just be a simply matter of, let's call all the board together. If we can't get anyone but one more supervisor, we constitute a quorum at that point for that special decision. That's all.
I understand.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And you're right down the road, Supervisor Fisher.
Yeah.
Keep that in mind.
Okay.
Okay, so thank you very much, everybody. We did a lot of discussion, but I think this was good work, and I think we're in a better place now than we were before. And may I just ask for one formality before we go on to the next thing? May we retire the mill levy committee then?
Yeah.
Okay, so could I have a motion to retire the mill levy committee?
We retire.
Okay, is there a second?
Yeah.
Okay, it has been moved and seconded that we retire the mill levy committee. And if there's no further discussion, we'll move on to a vote. I don't see anybody. Okay, very good. Raising the hand. Do we have our virtual? Very good. Thank you. 7 hands raised. The motion passes unanimously. Our colleagues here to my left, Supervisors Bonine and Fisher. Yeah. Okay, very good. So that was a good formality. That's good. Okay. Excellent. All right, so let's move now on to budget and accounting. And we will have first the treasurer's report, including the reconciliation detail. And Chairman Camarena will chime in after you do your report. Yes. Thank you. You have the floor, Treasurer Cordova.
Madam Vice Chair, so mine's going to be very short and then I am going to pass it on. So we had a statement beginning balance of $13,292.58 and our ending balance of January 31st is $204,146.48. And with that, I yield to Chair.
Chair Camarena, you have the floor. Thank you very much.
Thank you. This is Supervisor Camarena as chair. As I looked the report over, I thought, okay, we can just go ahead and matter-of-factly approve this and be done with it. And then as I just looked at one detail that stood out to me, I thought, that's odd. And that detail had to be with the check that was issued to BIMP for $15,930. And what struck me about it was that didn't seem like the right amount. I thought the board had approved 15,000. I don't know why this was done this way. I think we should take some time to look at it. We don't need to process the reasons for that at this point. But I do think we could approve this report with the exception that the minutes should reflect that the check to BIMP for $15,930 needs to be reviewed and a recommendation brought back at the March meeting for what does that mean? What do we need to do about it, if anything? And that was just my suggestion to the board at this point. Let's approve this report and acknowledge that this check to BIMP does not align with the decision that the board had made, and we need to get into what happened there and come back in March with a proposed recommendation for dealing with that difference, and leave it at that. If we try to get into the details at this point, I think we're going to find ourselves kind of just maybe going down a rabbit hole inadvertently. So that's my offer.
And if I may add, the leadership actually independently in preparation for the board meeting was reviewing this and all reached the same conclusions and communicated with each other. And so I wanted to just let you know that it is the recommendation of the leadership that we, if you see no other issues on this report, that we approve this reconciliation detail, save the check in 15,000, which has to be revisited at the next.
And
board meeting.
just if I may pigtail or dovetail on that, Madam Vice Chair, this is exactly what the role of the Directors Advisory Committee would do. This is just an example. So this is good. Okay.
Mr. Bonin, you have the floor.
Thank you. This is Supervisor Bonin. I move we approve the reconciliation report for January, with the exception of the check for BEMF.
Okay. Is there a second?
Supervisor Fisher, I second.
Okay, so it has been moved and seconded that we approve the reconciliation detail ending on January 31st, 2024, with the exception of the check to BEMF, which will be revisited at the next board meeting. I do not see hands raised for further discussion, so I will call for a vote by hands. All in favor of this motion, raise your hand, and those participating virtually, hands raised in the affirmative for Supervisor Abeyta. Supervisor Baca, are you with us? Is he raising his hand? Priscilla is, but is Supervisor Baca raising his hand? Yes, okay, it just came in. Okay, 7 hands raised, approved unanimously. Thank you very much. And we will circle back, Treasurer, on that one item, correct? Yeah. Okay. Okay, very good. And thank you very much for everyone on that. And then I worked on this. So do you want me to just, that resolution thing, could you pass it back to me? Okay, so we had a learning opportunity again. This is Vice Chair Smith Day Sharif. When we paid for the pad at the end of June 2023, this pad out here required moving dirt, and we used a capital outlay from the legislature just in time before it expired. We weren't aware that it was going to expire. So we got that expenditure made, but it was, the check hadn't cleared at the right time. And so that beginning cash balance was reflected in 2024 fiscal year budget that we approved and that we filed with the Department of Finance Administration. So part of the duties and board oversight is to take a look at our balances and things like that, working with our business manager and our certified public accountant to see discrepancies in the ledger and discrepancies in the report that we may have filed. So we discovered that, in fact, there was a discrepancy. That cash balance was actually less because there's a 30-day grace period for a check that's been written to cash, essentially. And that money should have never been reported as money in fiscal year 2024, because indeed it was spent according to the rules in 2023. Now, we can get dinged if we don't provide precisely this kind of oversight. Yeah, in an audit, in a certified independent audit report, which is a tier level 6, I think we're. So I was given some draft language, and I read all the reports from CPA Fogel and from Megan and and Andrew's reporting, and I think this is the best sort of reporting of that in a factual way that shows what happened. We discovered this, so we are adjusting our cash balance for fiscal year 2024, and we'll report that to DFA. But if this is an internal thing that shows our oversight. And so really this is a perfunctory thing, but it's a very necessary thing. And I do not think we'll have a finding because we did this. And not only, may I add, not only has Megan learned, but I really learned from this, and I want to thank you for that opportunity, because I finally wrapped my head around something in finances that was very detailed. So if there are any questions, you can address it to me or any of the others here. I think that I understand it. I hope that's conveyed here. Yeah, I'm calling for a motion if that's possible. Could I just clarify on the last whereas, Megan? I think that Chris Fogel was right that the 3,372, that was actually the payroll thing, and there's nothing more there. It's on the bottom of it. Yeah. 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 It's right here. All right. So yes, Supervisor Bonin, you have the floor.
Well, I appreciate the diligence here. I think this is fine, but are we not allowed to do budget modification in the DFA process? Do they not allow for those sorts of, because that's just a normal accounting process, and this seems like it's really elaborate.
Yeah, I'm going to yield it over to our business manager, but this is different. We do the adjustments. Yes, we're allowed to do budget amendments, but this is an oversight responsibility, and I'm going to hand it over to Megan, our business manager.
Thank you, Vice Chair, and thank you, Supervisor, for your question. In order to make this adjustment, because it's been reported and accepted through DFA, we have to have it resolved via resolution, and that makes it so like that the entire board knows what happened. It's explained out, and the only way now that this adjustment can be made is via resolution. Otherwise, I could just go into LGBMS and move stuff around, and I don't want to do that. You guys don't want me to do that, and DFA doesn't want us to do that. So doing it via resolution, it covers all of us, both with the Department of Finance and in our next audit.
Because this would be a finding if we did not provide this oversight.
Okay,
Supervisor Bonin, you have the floor.
Okay. I move that we adopt resolution number 4-2024.
Is there a second? So it has been moved and seconded that we adopt resolution number 4-2024, revision of beginning cash balance for fiscal year 2024 final budget. If there's no further discussion, I'm going to call for a vote by raising of hands. All those in favor of this resolution, raise your hand in aye. And do we have online? Priscilla, are you voting in the affirmative? Or yes, okay. So 7 hands are raised, motion carries. And resolution needs to be signed by everyone.
Madam Chairman?
This is why I think this amount is part of that 3,000, because this check, the exact same thing is what was CES. CES did the dirt work, and Antonio did the water line and it got nicked by the backhoe that was doing the dirt work. So I think this amount is
Can we
part of
verify that?
3,000. I kind of know that it is.
Okay, all right. So it has been brought to my attention that actually the $3,000 on here includes not only payroll adjustments, but a check that was paid on, and Megan was at class and I couldn't clarify this. So a check that was written, what's the date? So on 6/28, to fix a burst water line that we had, and it was in the amount of $1,015.03. So that's easily amended if you'll allow me to just put that amount and for repair, water line repair in the amount of. So, okay. All right, I'll fix that with you. And if you're all comfortable, I'd still like us to sign.
We need to sign.
We need to sign this voting yay or nay. No, and then you'll chair. Oh, because I chaired the meeting, don't I have to sign this then? I think. Yeah. Okay. All right. So we've concluded that, and I'd like us to move on, if everyone is comfortable with that, to grants and capital outlays, which is capital with the A, and related updates. I'll turn that over to you, District Director Hautzinger.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Smith A. Sharif is Director Hautzinger. I bring to you one of those coming to us from a partner saying there's a great opportunity. We'll do the biggest part of the lift. What do you think? We've had, this is associated with the National Park Service's River and Trails Assistance Program, RTCA, which has, we've been talking to them for a couple of years now, but they've just shifted personnel, and I've just, we just had our first meeting with the Park Service lady, the new lady, Marcy DeMillion, who points out that their cycle opens on, our proposals are due March 1st for what she describes as a very small dollar amount service contract that they'd come in and their RTCA team would give us some landscape architect designs for the property, engage in different trail options for us to think about moving forward, and also provide other planning support for our East Valencia urban gardens, because that's something that is in this lady's background. So I looked at the application. I failed to get it into the board packet. It looks like it's a pretty straightforward application. Take me about an hour to do, and again, I'm thinking that this is an instance where we're getting the service provided to us by the feds without to kind of queue up considerations for us to then make a more informed decision on how we're managing the property here. I don't see it as an expenditure of my time in any great measure. So I guess I'm looking for a green light to dig into this deeper, and maybe before I pull the trigger, I have, I'm working directly with the board supervisor to make sure that this makes sense. But if we don't have if I don't get a thumbs up to try to pursue this tonight, then I think we walk away from it, because it's doesn't merit a special meeting as I get my arms a little bit better around this. So my suggestion to the board is to give me a motion of support to work, if I can be so bold, to work with the vice chair to determine if this is a good fit for where we're at and where our needs are, and if so, to put in a proposal on March 1st to work with these partners at National Park Service. So it's not a whole lot of clarity there. Sorry, it may be that we just don't do anything. But I need to engage in this, and I haven't yet. So, Teresa.
Thank you very much, District Director Hautzinger. I want to be really brief. I've met with these folks with the parks and trails. They were recommended to us by the New Mexico lead from FEMA when he was still here, T-Bone Pickett. Anyway, the point is, and we met with the people involved in that. It's a very good opportunity. We could definitely use some help with trails, especially after the fire and things like that. It's basically they would be doing the work that we'd have to do otherwise. And it doesn't hurt us to say, yes, we can apply for this, and we could decide we're not going to apply. But if we don't have the permission to go ahead and look at it, then we can't. I've told Andrew I'm available. This is a big lift. It's certainly the application was. With that, I'd call for a motion to, you know, yeah. Now, would you like to make that motion, Supervisor Fisher?
Supervisor Fisher, to make them.
So you're going to move to approve that we pursue the NPS River and Trails proposal.
Yeah, I approve it. Yes, I approve.
Okay. Okay. So moved, you said.
Supervisor Bonine seconds.
Right, so it's been moved and seconded, and I don't see hands jumping up for further discussion. It's been moved and seconded that we approve the pursuit of the NPS River and Trails proposal. Okay, and I'm going to call for a vote by show of hands. And do I have our online guests? Yes, so do we have 7 hands raised? Yes. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you and congratulations to Supervisor Fisher on his first motion. Okay. Okay, very good. And now, do you want to just be real brief on this other stuff?
Supervisor Abeta here. I don't think your microphone is on, Andrew.
Sure enough. Sorry, Supervisor Abeta. Let me start again. This is Andrew. In reference to agenda item number 12 under the grants, we've just covered the subset item number 1, the National Park Service Rivers and Trails. So I'm going on to item number 2, just a quick summary of the 3 capital outlays that we submitted for a work truck, a passenger vehicle, and a utility trailer. We have received word from NMDA that our combined request for $250,000 has been approved for $75,000. So we have $75,000 to buy some vehicle, and we're not exactly sure what the best route forward is. I mean, we've had some good success buying used vehicles from the state surplus lot. That's what our truck is right now. It costs us $2,000. There's risk buying older vehicles. Trucks are probably more reliable than others, but just so that's one piece of news is right now we have to make a decision, and we're doing the research right now what exactly the terms and conditions are on the 75,000. So that's something we can look at next month. But just so you know, that's the news so far. Jim, you got a question?
Supervisor Fisher, I do know some people that we could talk to about fleet, doing a through fleet.
Sweet.
Or possibly I have some friends that I can go to who are GMs of some dealerships.
Okay. So that's a good discussion down the road, but it seems like right now, I mean, it's not a complete deal until the governor signs the bill, but it sounds like we should expect $75,000 coming to us. So that's encouraging, right? Better than not. We took a pretty aggressive run at this. We've never gone for vehicles before, but other SWCDs do it routinely. So we wanted to get in that mode of operation. I also want to just, I'm going to defer to leadership here to report back on the day up at the Rotunda on the 31st of January, SWCD Day, because apparently there was some great visiting going on with the decision makers there, and I'd like to go to Pam Cordova to summarize what the conversation was and where we landed, because we have another piece of good news that is pending, but we're pretty optimistic.
Supervisor Cordova. So we're on the 31st up to the round. Teresa and I went to the bathroom and then we saw, hey, look, there's Senator Antoinette Zedillo Lopez's office. So we popped in there and we actually asked her for capital outlay. But then we found out what we were asking was not really capital outlay. It was some other kind of funding and we had missed the deadline. But she called in her assistant and they thought that maybe they could work it with what we were requesting, what Andrew was requesting. And lo and behold, we got $210,000 from Senator Zedillo Lopez's capital outlay. And you can tell them exactly what it's for, Andrew. But Teresa and I done good.
I'm gobsmacked, or whatever the right word is, that the making of sausage. So this is the most important thing in my program right now to build a solid restoration foundation for the work that we're doing here. We're on the very bottom layer. If you allow me to do my metaphors here, the brick on the very bottom has to do with plant selection. Other really important bricks are soil health, infrastructure improvement. But this brick, we got a thumbs down on back on January 5th from the South Central CASC, a USGS federal outfit. And it took me 2 weeks to get, I think I took that denial worse than any denial I've had before, because I just thought it was a done deal. And it's a product of our April 6 and 7 Restoring Whitfield workshop that we had last year. Basically what it is a plant matrix to put a credentialed tool in the hands of backyard conservationists or Department of Natural Resource professional staff, Forest Service, our SWCD communities, to have a scientifically vetted plant list that has associated traits and attributes. And so it's not just the plant list. We'd start with the 250 plants that are on the USDA's master data list, and then we'd ask that's column A. Column B is, well, what's the depth to groundwater requirements of that plant? What's the salinity tolerance? What's the flammability? Super excited, Priscilla. I wanted to give you this news personally, because Priscilla's on the team, was on our grant team, as is Johnny. Johnny, Priscilla, and myself are co-PIs with Dr. Pat Shafroth, the principal investigator. There would be right now the intent is to have an ethnobotanical column where Priscilla would do an appropriate engagement with her tribal elders to ask their botanical input, being very careful to keep it general and not having anything that approaches sacred cultural uses, but more like foodstuffs. What there's this great story about this Isleta peach tree that is apparently popped out, right? So maybe that's a tree that we could think about reestablishing. So this plant matrix is Valencia Soil and Water Conservation District leading an effort for something that has been a sore need for the Middle Rio Grande ecosystem work for a couple of decades. And guess what? As in many things, New Mexico's late to the party. A lot of other river systems have just what I described, right? Where you have a very specific assessment of suitability for plants. And it comes with two dividends. We get to have a climate adaptation assessment part of that, and we get to potentially diversify what is growing in our bosque and the adjacent floodplain. Because right now, the biggest restoration project that's happened recently, Los Lunas Bridge, guess what? They had 2 species selected for 10,000 plants. We can do better than that. Cottonwood, willow are beautiful species, but we can do better in diversifying. So I can go on and on, but oh my God. Sorry.
To say we got it.
Okay, you got it.
All right, so just very briefly, the other things on here are that we're trying to recruit for the AmeriCorps Vistas program. This was an application that we already approved, and it's going to be awarded. Youth conservation, we met the deadline, and we worked together. It was great. I just added a few more things that allowed us to ask for 7 team members, and this will help us with the gardens. That will help fund the gardens if we get it, the work there. So I And then EDA, we have to meet a deadline tomorrow, which we're in the process of meeting. And I think that that's that. And I'm sorry that as chair for the evening, I run over by 9 minutes. And I'm really hoping there's no further questions so that somebody will give me a round robin and then we can conclude right after that. So anything for round robin?
Robin.
Please, you're recognized, Treasurer Cordova.
Last Thursday, myself and Supervisor Baca and his wife Marissa and their daughter Joey, we were all up in the House of Representatives sitting at the rostrum, and Representative Gail Chasey read a really nice memorial proclamation and condolences for my mother, Representative Condi Cordova, and that was a lot of fun, but the most fun was little Joey, and she's not even 3 years old. I think she's going to be a House representative when she grows up because she was just waving to everybody in the legislature, and all the legislators were waving back at her and in the gallery. So we had a fun time, and I yield.
Participate in round robin? If not, I'm just going to add that at the Capitol, for me, it was so wonderful to see someone from this area, our friend Senator Antoinette Zedillo Lopez, remember this area, be impressed with the work that we're done. And this is not technically her area, but she thinks so much of the work and working together of all backgrounds on this board that she carried this forward. That was very meaningful to me. And most of all, the drive home, I loved hearing the chair's stories, and they were wonderful. This is the greatest storyteller you could ever be in a car with. So with that, I'm going to call for a motion to adjourn. Second. Is there a second, or are we staying here all night? Okay. All right, so Cordova moves to adjourn, and chair seconds. And hands raised, please. Are we adjourning? Yes, 7 raised their hands, unanimously adjourned at 7:11. And it won't happen again.